laptop on the dark web. I never should have bought that laptop. It turned my life completely upside down. It all started on a late-night browsing spree, the kind that often led me down the rabbit holes of those obscure websites from the dark web, offering all kinds of tantalizing offers. You could find anything imaginable there, from legal to the illegal, and everything in between. That's when I found it. A listing that seemed innocent enough, buried among a jumble of more questionable items. Old laptop. Perfect for refurbishing. Minimal wear and tear. In good working condition, the ad read. I'm a tech enthusiast who is always looking for new projects, and this one was too good to pass up. The only reservation I had was the seller's lack of reviews, and those that existed were vague, making it hard to tell if the product was legit, but the price was unbeatable, and I figured it was worth the risk. As I clicked buy now, a sense of unease immediately settled in my stomach, but I brushed it off. I needed a distraction, and the laptop seemed like the perfect project. When the laptop finally arrived, it looked a little worn, but had a certain retro charm to it. I wiped it down, plugged it in, and powered it up. The screen flickered to life, revealing a handful of files. Most were harmless, old documents, music files, and applications, but one stood out. "Do not open," it read in bold red lettering. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the mouse. Curiosity gnawed at me. It had to be a joke left by the previous owner. I was a seasoned hacker. I could of course handle a simple file. Taking a deep breath, I clicked on it. Immediately, the screen filled with static. The sound was sharp, cutting through the silence and sending a chill down my spine. I wanted to close the laptop, but I continued to watch, mesmerized. The video appeared. Grainy and dark. A strange-looking figure stood before a flickering candle, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. His voice was low and haunting. Suddenly, he turned to the camera, revealing his hollow eyes that seemed to stare straight through me. The video then abruptly cuts off, leaving only an eerie silence. I closed the laptop, a little taken aback, but not totally shaken. "It's just a video," I whispered to myself. Nothing more. But I had no idea that the real disturbances were only about to begin in my life. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications. My social media accounts were filled with strange messages, and people I hadn't spoken to in years were frantically emailing, calling, and texting me. I was overwhelmed, trying to make sense of it all. Then, an old school friend called, his voice sounding shaky. He asked if I was okay, saying he'd received an email with a video of me, trying to hang myself. I froze in shock. "I'm sending it now," he said. The email arrived, and my heart raced as I clicked the video. It was a grainy recording of me in my living room, standing beneath a noose. I watched in horror as I positioned myself to go through with it. I had no memory of this. I had never done anything like this. How could this even happen? I asked myself. Just then, the doorbell rang, followed by loud banging. My stomach churned. Was it the police? Had someone reported the video? How am I going to explain any of this to them? Hesitant, I opened the door, bracing myself for a tough conversation with the police. But instead of the authorities, it was my girlfriend, Stella. Her mascara was smeared all over her face from crying, but her expression was nothing but pure fury. Without a word, she stormed in, shoving me back onto the couch. Before I could react, she kicked off her shoe and started hitting me with it, hard, relentless blows as I tried to shield myself. "Stella, wait, I can explain," I pleaded. "That video was fake. I wasn't trying to do anything." She paused, her chest heaving with anger, then pulled out her phone. "Explain this then," she spat, thrusting the screen in front of me. It was another video, this time of me sitting on a beach with a woman who clearly wasn't Stella. The two of us were laughing and flirting while she sat on my lap. Tears streamed down Stella's face. "Are you saying this is fake too?" she asked, her voice cracking. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. I didn't recognize the woman in the video, nor have I ever been to that beach as well. None of it made sense. But before I could even form a response, Stella threw her shoe at me one last time and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I was left sitting there, reeling from the sheer impossibility of it all. Then my phone rang again. This time it was my parents. They said they'd received a news clip showing me in jail after a drunk driving accident. A news clip? Of me in jail? How could that even be possible? I asked myself again, as I stood in my own living room completely bewildered. My head spun as I spent the next few hours trying to calm down friends and family, assuring them I was fine and that it was all some sick prank. But was it really a prank? I reluctantly glanced at the laptop as a wave of dread washed over me. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly approached it and opened it again. The screen flickered to life. This time, all the files were gone, except for two. The original Do Not Open file, and a new one labeled Victims. My hands trembled as I clicked on Victims. A list appeared that was long and chilling. I scrolled down, each entry accompanied by photos and usernames from the dark web, people who were probably no longer alive. My blood ran cold when I saw my name. I was number 178, the most recent victim. My status was being shown as in progress. As I clicked on my folder, a photo of me appeared, along with details only someone who had been watching me would know. Some of the other usernames on the list were familiar too. People I'd seen online on the dark web and forums I frequent. I often wondered where they suddenly vanished. Now I knew why, and I realized I might be next. Panic surged through me. I slammed the laptop shut, grabbed it, and raced out the door. I drove for hours until I found a secluded spot near a dumpster. I tossed the laptop out and drove over it several times to make sure it was destroyed. For the first time in days, I felt some relief, but it didn't last long. When I returned home, my blood froze. The laptop was sitting on my desk, as if it had never left. A chill crept down my spine as I stood there, staring in horror. Paranoia consumed me. Right then I knew I had a huge problem on my hands and had to find a solution for it no matter what. So I started looking at online forums dedicated to paranormal activities and digital hauntings. Maybe, just maybe, someone else had encountered a similar experience. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing furiously, desperate for answers. As I scrolled through hundreds of posts, I found one that caught my eye. It was headlined, "The Cursed Laptop." The poster detailed a story eerily similar to mine. After purchasing an old laptop from the dark web, he began receiving ominous messages and videos that terrorized the user. His advice was simple but chilling: confront it, do a cleansing ritual. So, I researched further on the dark web, uncovering an array of rituals involving salt, candles, and incantation. I gathered the supplies, feeling both foolish and desperate at the same time. As night fell, I prepared the ritual in my dimly lit apartment, following all the instructions to the letter. I lit a row of candles on either side of the room and drew a circle on the middle of the floor using salt. Once I stood inside the circle, I started with the incantation. "Spirits of the digital realm, I call upon you to reveal yourself," I said, my voice slightly trembling. "I seek to end this torment." Nothing happened at first, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But then the laptop flickered violently, the screen flashed, and the ominous file reappeared, more vivid than before. The strange figure was looking at me intently through the laptop as if he was trying to get a measure of me. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Even the light from the candles was being blocked from illuminating the room by some unseen powerful force, and then slowly the candles started to spread a little bit light around the room, casting a creepy-looking silhouette by my side. Right then, I felt a cold and putrid breath against my neck, and a voice whispered in my ear, "You've invited me in, Anthony." I could feel his presence just behind the salt circle, and I realized he couldn't get closer. This was the same figure that appeared on the video first when I opened the laptop. But in real, he looked a lot more terrifying. He carefully stood at the edge of my vision, his dark silhouette blurring the boundaries of reality. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The figure stepped closer, its face a distorted visage of rage. "You opened the door, and now you must pay the price." Terror clawed at my insides, but I forced myself to stand my ground. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to refurbish the laptop. It's too late for remorse, he hissed, a chilling echo of my own fear. In that moment, I remembered the ritual. I needed to confront this entity to assert my will. I reject you. I will not be your victim. Spirits of the digital realm, I command you to leave, I shouted at the top of my lungs. The temperature dropped sharply, and the shadows lengthened. I felt a pull, a tug of war between my will and the spirit's malevolent force as everything started to swirl around me. The figure roared in anger, while the screen flickered wildly as it struggled against my command. Suddenly, my room was plunged into complete darkness, and the power finally returned a few seconds later. When my gaze shifted towards the table, I realized the laptop was gone. It had disappeared. Finally, out of my life for good. Oh, thank God and the Holy Spirits. After that day, I changed all my electronic devices. Yes, I replaced every one of them. I even deleted my email and other online accounts and opened completely new ones. I didn't want to leave anything to chance. In fact, it has been over 3 months since I visited the dark web, and I don't plan to visit anytime soon. Then I also managed to get back with my girlfriend Stella. Somehow, I was able to convince her of my innocence. So one day, while we were on vacation and having a good time, a message suddenly appeared on my phone. Attached was a single folder. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The folder's name flashed at me in bold red lettering. Do not open. Please stay away from the deep web. I had always been aware of the deep web. You hear the craziest, most fucked up stories from people who have the balls to explore it. Websites that involve human experimentation, hiring a hitman, and even watching people through their own security cameras. It's fucked up. But honestly, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't just slightly interested. Now, just to point out, there was no malicious intent behind my exploration of the deep web. I was just curious to see if it really was as bad as people said it was. The first thing I stumbled upon was a website extremely centered around death, which gave me a really uneasy feeling, so I didn't hang around that webpage very long. It takes quite a bit to freak me out, so it's safe to say I was a little surprised that I couldn't even stomach the first website I clicked on. But hey, it's not supposed to be all unicorns and rainbows, right? Next, I clicked a website that was dedicated to watching people through security cameras. Most of the screens showed empty living rooms and patios. Some of them showed oddly filled rooms, like rooms that were packed with stuffed animals, and another that was eerily decorated with fucking Christmas lights and fake Santa Claus statues. Another screen showed a young woman doing yoga. That one had a lot of views. I didn't watch that one very long. Something inside me felt ill and just wrong. Like what I was doing, what's sickening. I shook my head, blinking away any more curiosity before I hovered my mouse over the tiny X to close the window. Right before I pressed the mouse, I saw a blue link under a black screen that said, "Proceed with caution." I bit down on my back teeth, yelling internally to leave the page. Don't click the link, it's not worth it. It could be murder, would that make me an accomplice? What if it was someone skinning an animal or some shit like that? But then again, what if it wasn't? I don't know what the hell propelled me to move my mouse away from the window, hovering it over the link instead, but that's where I ended up. My curiosity always got the best of me, and no matter how twisted my stomach felt, or how strong the feeling of dread was that lingered right over my head, I had to know. I really just had to know what the link led to, or I would go crazy until I finally figured it out. So, I pressed my mouse down and watched the link turn purple, felt my mouth go dry, and watched as the screen slowly loaded. The page was just comprised of a large screen, like the security camera page, only it was just one. The room was concrete. It was dark. There must have been a night vision camera or something, because everything had a weird blue-green tinge, but you could tell there was little to no light. There was a dark liquid on the floor in a medium-sized puddle. I told myself it was gasoline. Don't ask me why. Movement in the far right of the screen caught my attention, and I immediately perked in my desk chair, inching my face closer to the screen of my laptop. It looked like an arm, like someone's forearm. They were standing there, not really moving but subtly swaying, just enough to not look completely still. "Hey," I said, before shaking my head and slapping my mouth shut. "Stupid." Then, the person walked. They walked over towards the left of the screen. I felt my stomach knot, felt my throat tingle and tighten, bile rising in the back of my throat. I knew my mouth was open, gaping, and my eyes were wide, face screwed up into an expression of pure disgust. It was a young woman. She looked like she couldn't be older than 25 or so. Long, dark, and dirty hair was in tangles, like she'd been pulling at it. Her leg was dragging, her other skinny leg doing most of the work as she limped weakly. Her head was down, looking at the floor, and the sound of her dragging her foot across the concrete echoed in my silent room. I didn't think it could get any worse. I was so fucking wrong. Suddenly, the woman raised her head, and it looked like it weighed a ton on her tiny body. I hadn't noticed it before, only able to barely make out her side profile, but now it was clear as day. She looked around, eyes watering with tears and black makeup streaming down her face. Small strands of bloody thread were intertwined in her lips, messily tied, locking them together. Dark blood stained her chin, probably from where she'd tried desperately to open her mouth, to scream, before realizing she couldn't. Her dainty fingers were stained as well, the same color as the puddle on the concrete. My whole body felt weak. My stomach was sick. I tried to tell myself it was fake, that it was all a big hoax. My eyes scanned to the bottom left of the screen. 5,623 people were watching. Unable to fight it any longer, I ran straight into the bathroom, puking my insides into the toilet bowl. Everything in me felt disgusting, wrong, twisted. Once I was finally done, I laid on the floor of the bathroom, letting the cool tiles try to soothe my burning body. My head was spinning. I kept repeating to myself, over and over in my head, that I shouldn't have clicked the link. I should have left. I should have closed the fucking window and told my inner curiosity to go fuck itself. Instead, I was laying on the floor, the bathroom reeking of vomit, and my mind a complete mess over the hell I was supposed to do. Should I get the link and send it to the police? Should I call them now? My first instinct was to copy and paste the link just in case, then call the police and inform them of what was happening. Maybe they could trace the IP address or something. Maybe they would recognize the girl and know where to start looking. Maybe I could save her life. I'd feel really fucking dumb if this was all fake just to get viewers, but I wasn't about to gamble, not with what was at stake. I ignored the dizzy feeling flooding my head as I jumped up, grabbing the doorknob and twisting it a bit too harshly. When I flung the door open, my phone buzzed in my pocket, scaring the living shit out of me. I stopped mid-panic and picked it up with shaky hands. I saw my girlfriend's name and immediately slid to answer. My voice was a complete wreck, my eyes finding the screen where the girl shrunk down to the ground, the sound of her cries bouncing around the room, making my body feel rigid. I had nothing left to throw up, but I still felt so sick. "Madeline, you're not going to believe what I just fucking saw." "What? Are you okay? Have you been crying?" "No, I'm not okay," I answered, averting my eyes from the screen. "I know you said to stay away from the deep web, but..." "Are you kidding me?" Her voice went from caring to mad in a split second. "I told you to stay away from that place. You never listen to me. You never fucking do." "There's a girl," I said weakly. "She's trapped in some basement or something. Her mouth is like sewn shut. There's blood all over her face and hands. I don't know what to do. Madeline." The woman's cries got louder, more desperate, but muffled. "I'm so sorry." "Close it out. Clear your history and never go back there again. I'm not kidding. But should I call..." "No." Her voice was stern now. "You don't know if it's bullshit. It's probably staged to gain disgusting viewers. Apparently like yourself. People do it all the time. That's why I said it'd be best if you just stayed away from there. You could get yourself into a lot of trouble." I didn't say anything, wordlessly walking over to the desk. My hand shook as I raised my mouse to the small X once more. My eyes watched the number of viewers slowly tick higher and higher before I closed the window. I felt even worse than before. Okay, we can file a report tomorrow, just in case. But for now, go to sleep and stay the fuck away. I can't believe you even went there in the first place. I didn't have the energy to argue with her. Guilt plagued my whole body, drowning me. It was all I could feel. I told her good night, that I was sorry and that I loved her before I hung up and made my way to the couch to sleep, or try to sleep. It didn't feel right even being in my bedroom, or being anywhere near my computer. Not while that girl was still trapped, unable to scream for help, unable to talk at all. I know it could be fake, but was that really a risk I was willing to take? I looked up some Google searches over what was fake on the deep web and read multiple stories about staged webcam videos, which made me feel a little bit better. It didn't make the sick, guilty feeling go away, though. It's safe to say that I didn't get much sleep. Every time I closed my eyes or even began to drift off, I would see the woman's face, the thread laced into her lips, the blood staining her mouth, her fingers, the floor. I continued to grow more and more anxious and uneasy, deciding that maybe getting out of the house, heading over to the local CVS and picking up some melatonin might help. I threw my blanket off, slid on my shoes, and grabbed my keys and wallet from the nightstand. The cool air felt amazing and did wonders to calm the whirlwind of thoughts in my head. I went to check the time, realizing I'd left my phone at home. Not a huge deal, the store was only a few minutes away from my house. I ended up buying melatonin and a stronger sleeping pill just in case those didn't work. I also got a pack of bottled water to help rehydrate after I vomited up all the contents in my stomach earlier. By the time I got home, I felt much better, which lasted about 3 seconds before I noticed that my front door was wide open. Now, I may have been in a state of shock and panic, but I never ever leave my front door open or even unlocked. My heart immediately began to race. I got out of my car, closing the door quietly and unlocking my trunk, grabbing the crowbar that I keep in there. "Who's there?" I yelled into the house, waiting for any noise. "Who is in there?" My own voice was shaking and weak. I was met with complete silence. Keeping the crowbar up and ready to strike, I walked to the couch and felt for my phone. As soon as I found it, I hit the emergency button and waited until I got a hold of a 911 operator, letting her know that I think my house was just broken into. She told me police would be on their way. After checking around the house for anything odd, I decided to give my girlfriend a call, letting her know what had happened. The phone rang, and then rang some more. After getting her voicemail, I hung up, knowing she'd probably be asleep this late at night. I waited about 20 or so minutes for the police to show up and walked around with them like a scared puppy as they checked every room. They ended up just having me fill out a report, telling me they'll keep patrol cars in the area just in case anyone else gets hit. As they were leaving, I checked to see if Madeline had called back yet, but there wasn't any missed calls. I, however, did notice several outgoing calls to her cell phone. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:12 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:14 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:17 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:20 a.m. And then another one at 3:56, which was around the time I'd gotten home. My mind went into an automatic panic, knowing for a fact that I did not make those calls. I quickly checked my texts, reading one I'd apparently sent out at 3:23 a.m. "Hey, can't sleep, gonna come over, mind leaving the back door unlocked so I can get in?" I didn't send that message. My stomach dropped, my heart thudded loudly in my chest as I noticed her reply directly underneath. "Sorry, I was sleeping. Thanks for waking me up, BTW. Lose your key again? It's unlocked, don't be too late." Without a second thought, I jumped up, running to lock all the doors and windows in my house, keeping the crowbar tight in my hand as I ran to my car. I drove as fast as my little Civic would allow all the way to her house, ignoring any stoplights. It only took me 3 minutes to get there, but I still knew it'd be too late. I made my way to her back door, feeling every cell in my body burn when I saw it was wide open. My face was hot, My hands were shaking, but I stepped in, crowbar raised like a bat, ready to swing. I tried to keep my emotions at bay as I looked around her dark house. "Madeline," I called out. "Are you okay, babe?" Nothing. Silence. "Madeline?" A small scream came from her bedroom just up the stairs. My legs jerked to a run as I flew up the stairs, slamming her door open. I looked at her empty bed, her empty room. Confused, I heard the scream again, only this time, I heard that it was coming through her computer monitor. I felt numb as I looked at the screen, noticing the same website I saw earlier, only instead of one woman, I saw two. The first was lying on the floor, not moving, in that puddle of dark liquid. I recognized the second girl, just as I had recognized her voice. My heart shattered as I saw her face, streaked in blood. The same threading was sewn into her eyelids, locking them shut. Her scream hit my bones, surrounded my body. It was all I could hear. Her face was twisted in pure terror. I cried pathetically as her voice began to go out, continuing to grow weaker and rasped. I locked my jaw, picking up my cell and dialing 911 for the second time, only this time it barely rang once before the deep, gravelly voice of another man answered. "You should not have called." Chills shot down my body, and I heard the phone thud as it hit the carpeted floor. My breath hitched in my throat as I bent to pick it up, hanging up the call and racing down the stairs. How did he do that? How did he redirect my call away from the police? I felt my heart race as I darted out of her back door, in a frenzy as I sprinted to the closest house. I pounded the door, screaming at the top of my lungs until the neighbor opened it, her face tired, confused, and scared. She let me in, and I explained through frantic tears what happened. I'm typing this on my phone to post as we both try to get a hold of the cops, but neither of our calls are going through, and neither is her landline. I think someone is messing with our cellular signal, and they may have cut her line, but we're going to keep trying. I'm scared for me, I'm scared for my girlfriend, and I'm scared for my neighbor. I don't know what's going to happen to me. If you don't hear from me again, please take this advice and this experience to heart. Stay away from the deep web. For fuck's sake, please, please, stay away from the deep web. I bought drugs from the dark web, now I'm being hunted down. I'm not gonna lie and claim I'm a perfect person. Hell, I'm probably not even a decent one. I used to party all the time, got involved in casual drug use and obscene amounts of alcohol. It's not something I'm particularly proud of, but with no family and few friends left to worry about me, I figured why not. I didn't have any plans past high school, so I might as well just enjoy the little time I'd been given on this planet. However, with the illegality surrounding drugs, it means there is some risk getting a hold of it. Usually one has to get involved with sketchy people in strange places. Most of the time, the product is good. After all, the dealers need to keep their customers alive. Still, just getting caught or buying fake stuff was a risk I didn't bother dealing with. Thus, I eventually turned to the dark web. Imagine that, a place online where you can buy the best quality drugs with just a couple of clicks and they send it directly to your address in a discreet package. It tends to be pretty safe, and people even rate the various pills, full on with forums to describe each individual experience. As time progressed, a few of the .onion sites would begin to vanish off the face of the internet. Maybe the dealers quit, or maybe the FBI shut them down, no one really knows. So without a steady supplier, I had to venture deeper into the dark web in search of a new place to hand me my weekly fix. I looked around on a few forums, but most of the posts were old, and a surprisingly large amount of the sites had been taken down. Of those that still remained up, most sold dubious, weak drugs. Eventually, my search landed me with a new recommendation. It was a place I'd never even heard about, but their product was fairly cheap. As if that wasn't good enough on its own, their site seemed exceptionally professional. It might sound stupid, but if a site presents itself with a good-looking design, there's a bigger likelihood that people blindly trust them. I never claimed to be smart. Yes, I was one of those gullible people, and it damn near cost me my life. The website I found didn't even have a name. It just displayed a logo that consisted of a pill in the center of a bullseye. It only contained a single product, but it alone had hundreds of top-rated reviews, all praising it in various different languages. It didn't seem staged, and I truly believed they had been written by different people. With that, I decided to order a weekend package which held 3 pills. It was the cheapest option based on the amount of pills, and I figured it would be worth a shot. As promised, the product arrived the next Friday, with an ample amount of time before the evening would even begin. I got ready for a night out on the town, and swallowed the first pill with half an hour to spare. Of course, I made sure the dosage was fit for my body weight and previous experiences, knowing the real risk of overdose if I wasn't careful. Then, I left my house, ready to waste another night of my life, and darkness. With that, my memories were shattered into a million incomprehensible fragments. Whether I went to a club or just passed out in the street, I didn't know. It was all beyond hazy, a mesh of colors and sounds that didn't convey any meaning. It has stolen even my most basic cognitive functions. The next thing I remember is waking up on hard, rough wooden floorboards. I was soaked in my own vomit, but the utter confusion of where I was overrode my pain. It was dark, which came as both a blessing and a cause for unrest. At least my eyes wouldn't suffer, but it added to the mystery of where I'd awoken. There wasn't much in the room, except for a cupboard, a few moldy chairs, and a broken fireplace. The windows were partially boarded up and covered by dark curtains. On the floor lay 3 strangers I'd never seen before. 2 men, one significantly older than myself and the other my own age, and a young woman looking slightly older than a teenager. I rolled over to push myself up, groaning as I realized just how much my body hurt. "Hey!" I tried to call out, but my voice was too hoarse to produce enough volume. Once I was finally able to push myself to my feet, I took a peek out the window. We were in a forest, and the little room we'd awoken in looked like a hunting lodge. Whether I'd met these people during a party, or if I just stumbled into a drug den, I didn't know. Then the girl started groaning, finally regaining consciousness. She looked over at me in slight panic, clearly not recognizing who I was. Then she took a glance at her surroundings and shot to her feet in fear. "Where am I? Who are you?" I backed away from her a bit, giving her enough space to calm down. "Hey, calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm Wilson. I just woke up here. I was wasted last night and can't remember what happened." She thought about it for a moment, before realizing she too couldn't recall anything from the previous night. I was just partying. I don't remember. What's your name?" "Lisa." "All right, Lisa. Do you know where we are?" She shook her head. Her mind was as gone as my own. As we stood there trying to figure out what was going on, the oldest man started to wake up. He had salt and pepper hair, probably in his early 50s. I bent down to talk to him, but as he saw me standing above him, he grabbed my throat, rolled over, and started choking me. "What the fuck are you doing in my house?" he yelled as he crushed my throat. The girl tried to shove him off, but she was too small compared to the massive man. Luckily, her effort distracted him enough for me to push him to the side, just giving me enough time to catch some air. "Stop," I coughed out. "I'm not trying to hurt you." The man quickly inspected his surroundings, immediately realizing his mistake. "Where am I?" he asked. "We don't know," I said, still out of breath. "Why did you attack me like that?" "I thought I was at home. I didn't even leave the house yesterday. What the fuck is going on?" He took a moment to gather his thoughts, rubbing the heavy sleep out of his eyes. He was a well-built guy for his age, clearly with some experience in fighting. Lisa went closer, ready to introduce herself. "I'm Lisa," she said as she reached out her hand. Adam Morrison. Do you guys remember anything?" We both shook our heads. The 4th guy was still unconscious, lying face down on the ground. Adam went over to shake him awake, hoping he held some clues as to what had happened the night before. "Hey man, wake up," he said as he shook him another time. He still didn't react. "Oh boy, that's not good." He then proceeded to turn him over. Lisa and I immediately jumped back in shock as we noticed several bullet holes to his torso. He was dead, and probably had been for quite some time. In addition, there was a note stuck to his corpse. Lisa and I were speechless, but Adam didn't seem all that horrified. He just took the note off the guy and started reading it out aloud. "Thank you for your purchase. Let the games begin." On the paper, I noticed an all too familiar logo. It was the bullseye with a pill in the middle, from the same dark website I'd purchased drugs from. "What, you know this logo?" he asked me. "Yeah, I bought some pills from there a few days ago." "I did the same," Lisa said. The man sighed. "I guess we're all in the same boat then. Whoever these guys are, they're not just drug dealers." "What do they mean by games, though?" Lisa asked. "I'm not sure yet, but..." He was interrupted by someone knocking on the door. We all jumped back from the sudden noise, but none of us dared open up. 3 knocks were all we got, before a paper slid in under the door. Adam rushed to pull open the door, but there was no one on the other side. All that lay before us was a dense forest through which someone could easily vanish within a second. We'd basically have to crawl to get through it. He picked the note off the ground and started reading. "Dear users, thank you for participating in the yearly hunt. You have 24 hours to escape the forest, or you will be eliminated from the game. Hunters have been dispatched to track you down. Good luck." He handed the letter to me, and I read over it again. Just like the previous note, it held the same logo. "What the fuck are we gonna do?" Lisa asked on the brink of tears. Adam went from window to window, making sure the rotten blinds and boards were properly covering them up. "We're gonna get the fuck out of here. But first, you need to get out of the neon yellow top of yours," he said as he pointed to Lisa. "What? We need to stay hidden. These bright clothes won't help." He went to the nearby closet and started rummaging through it. Within seconds, he found some old jackets and shoes that were wet and partially broken down over time. "Put these on." My clothes were already fairly dark, as were Adam's. He seemed experienced, which gave me a minor glimmer of hope. "Are you sure about this? Beats staying here and getting slaughtered." We didn't need any further convincing. Adam seemed to be the only one with even the faintest idea on what to do. Because of that, we diligently followed him outside, keeping our heads low as we got ready to crawl through the dense forest. It was about midday, and still we couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Even after a few hours passed, we still didn't see any of the aforementioned hunters. Still, Adam kept telling us to keep quiet and to only step where he did. Lisa struggled to keep up as she had replaced her high heels with shoes that were 2 sizes too big for her feet. Suddenly, Adam stopped dead in his tracks, causing us both to bump into him. He'd noticed something on the ground, a tripwire. It was connected to spikes that would have emerged from the ground if triggered, killing whoever unfortunate enough to walk into the trap. "How the hell did you see that?" "Don't worry about that. Let's just say I have experience with it." The day went on, and my legs were getting to the point of total collapse. Adam kept looking up at the sky, but the clouds had since fallen away behind a thick layer of dense clouds. "Where are we heading?" "South, I think. I'm not sure." I was exhausted, out of shape, and hungry. Lisa didn't fare much better. She sat down to take a break, which seemed to annoy Adam. No sooner had she stopped moving, before we heard a brief whizzing sound, as if a bee had flown by at incredible speed. "What was..." I tried to ask. "Get down!" Adam screamed. Another whiz was heard, followed by a hole produced in the tree behind us. Splinters exploded from the hole through the air. "Shit, shit, shit!" I screamed as I realized someone was shooting at us. Lisa got up to run in panic. Adam called for her to get back down, but it was too late. Several more bullet holes were created in the scenery around her as she ran, none even close to hitting her. It was almost as if they weren't aiming at her. Instead, they just let her keep running. She didn't get far, before running into a trap hole in the ground. There she fell about 4 feet onto several spikes sticking up from the ground. I didn't dare look down in the hole, but I heard her hopeless screams. We couldn't help her. Still, I instinctively wanted to get up and check on her, but Adam held me down. "You want to die?" he asked. "Just stay close to me. We need to keep moving." We basically crawled away from the gunshots. But just like with Lisa, None of the bullets even came close to hitting us. It felt more as if they were hurting us in a certain direction, but I wasn't going to stick around and find out if that was truly the case. "What about Lisa?" I asked. "She's dead. Keep moving." We spent minutes crawling before reaching a hill. Once we'd gotten halfway down, the shooting stopped. Adam pulled me to my feet and we kept running downwards. At the end of the slope, we finally found a clearing leading out of the forest. We got out. I almost screamed in victory, but then I noticed something in the tall grass. About a dozen darkly dressed men stood up, each wielding a rifle. They laughed at us as we retreated back into the forest. They didn't even raise their weapons. They just laughed and waved as we kept fleeing. One of them even gestured for us to keep running and held up 5 fingers to signify how much time we had left. We escaped from the open fields, back into a forest constantly growing in density. There were no bullets flying by, but we both knew they'd follow us where we went. We needed to get out of the forest, but neither of us knew the way. Then we saw it, a mountain in the distance, only an hour's walk away. But the closer we got to the mountain, the darker it got. The clouds above were thickening, and the dense treetops blocked out every bit of light we could receive. Before long, it would start to rain, a prophecy foretold by the howling wind that accompanied us on our journey. In the dark, I kept stumbling over roots sticking up from the ground. I told Adam to wait, but he couldn't hear me over the howling wind. As I got back to my feet for the 3rd time, he was just gone. I kept wandering on alone, calling out for him. Then, I almost fell into a deep pit dug into the ground. Inside lay several dozen corpses in various stages of decay. Then it hit me that the hunters wanted us to go here. They needed us to see this pit, so we could know what awaited us when we inevitably lost the game. "Adam," I called out, but through the developing storm, he couldn't hear me. I just kept walking, watching as darkness overwhelmed my surroundings. I started to hear twigs breaking around me, something stalking me almost in absolute silence. Then something caught around my leg, and I came crashing down to the ground. It was a tripwire, but no trap had been activated. I let out a mild sigh of relief when I heard someone call out for me. I looked to the side to find Adam nailed to a tree by the trap that had been activated. He'd tripped it before me, causing him to get impaled by metal spikes. He couldn't move. He was too wounded. "I found the exit, but I got careless," he groaned. "Oh God," I said as I tried to pull the spikes out from his abdomen. It was a futile task. He was pretty much nailed to the tree. There was a cave in the wall behind me. Adam pointed to it with a trembling finger. "Just go," he let out in merely a whisper. With that, he let out his last breath and drifted off to eternal slumber. Without hesitating, I started running into the cave. Once inside, I had to rely on my other senses to get through. It was pitch black, but the draft produced meant there had to be an opening on the other side. I felt my way along the walls as I heard footsteps behind me. I just kept going as fast as I could until I finally saw the light on the other end of the tunnel. Then I ran again, my lungs burning and my legs wobbly. I couldn't see any rain on the other side, but the storm might just be trapped on the other side of the mountain. There were footsteps following behind me, followed by chuckles that echoed through the save. I had to keep going. I couldn't give up. Then I finally entered open space again, just in time for my legs to give in. I was out from the mountain, and in front of me lay nothing but empty, open fields. I tried to crawl, but I was too weak. I just turned around and saw 5 men in dark clothing come outside, each of them with a rifle. One of the men raised his weapon, ready to fire upon me, but one of the others stopped him. "Stop," he said. "He found the way out of the forest. The hunt has ended." They chuckled again, before returning into the cave. For them, it had just been a game, a hunt that they'd already gone through 100 times before. I was just a random victim that happened to purchase a drug off their website. It took me another 3 days to traverse the massive landscape and find the nearest town, but the hunters had at least let me live. Once home, I called the police, told them everything that I knew. Of course, the website had been removed by then, and I couldn't for the life of me find the forest they'd previously chased me through. Officially, no one has gone missing, because the people chosen for the hunt were people who wouldn't be missed, including me. We found a portal on the dark web. It took us to a rave, and now something wants us dead. My cursor quivers over the link. It glows an electric, cancerous blue, a bruise on the screen. My laptop had begun to whir when I received the email, but now, with it open in front of me, it's fallen still. I'm engulfed in silence, severed only by my own ragged breaths. It's agonizing. As a high school dropout with nothing to do, I'd taken to deep sea diving, delving to the depths of the cyber sea, seeing how far I could dive, how far I could take it, losing myself in the darkest waters of the deep web. I poked at the sharks, I provoked them. I'd go in naked, without a VPN or an oxygen mask, foaming with a sick thrill whenever someone fed back my address, my age, my full name. Sometimes it even felt like I had been underwater. I'd break the surface, gasping, grinning at my reflection as my screen faded black and the threat receded like a retreating tide. Last month I came across a shipwreck. Trawling a now-defunct Japanese image board, I unearthed fossilized chunks of code, the decomposing skeleton of a long-lost password. But I wasn't the first. Turns out there was a whole community of us, divers fishing for information, paleontologists piecing together the bones of something ancient. 17 years isn't that old, in reality, but online, where the tide turns like a carousel and the rip currents can drag you to the darkest depths with a single click. This was something prehistoric. It felt like it had been waiting for us. We found a web page, found the username, used the password, and it worked. We found a trove of hidden audio files, sifted through them, found nothing but the sound of waterlogged silence. We thought we found the creator, but then we found that he'd thrown himself in front of a train in 2010. We tracked him across the ClearNet and the deep web and all the air pockets in between, until we finally found his account on an ancient music streaming service, existing transiently in archived pages across the internet. No moon on clearvoice.jp, account description and email address. The same one blinking up at me now. When we all received the same email, the others labeled it a scam, spyware, a Trojan horse. A few people said they were going to click it, but nobody's posted any screenshots yet. I think they're all scared, waiting for someone else to take the first plunge. They're lucky, because tonight I feel like swimming. I click the link. My screen goes black, glows white. My laptop screams like a harpooned fish, the CD port ejecting with the violence of a dislocated bone. Red floods my screen. My vision swims with gaping wounds, like my laptop's been slashed by a butcher's knife. But no, these are pictures, digital recreations of desperation, a grid of skin, each centimeter sliced with the same bloody symbol drawn with a knife. A semicircle, crossed through with an X, repeated 100 times across meters of flesh. Text wells up on the screen. Tickets are free for the worthy. I stare at my screen, at the webcam, blinking at me with its red eye, awakened. Then I look over at my chest of drawers. I think about my stash of used razor blades. I stand up. 5 minutes later, I'm holding a wafer-thin slice of sharpened metal over my wrist and searching for skin. Techno blared from my phone, the tiny scrape of an electronic beat blinding me, soothing me, sandpapering the sharp edges of reality, and the blade. Are my forearms too obvious, or does it need to be visible? I look up at my webcam for help, but it just stares back, unwavering. I decide on my right hip, the silvery pale skin stretched taut over the jutting bone. I hover the blunt blade over my body, trying to ignore the bluish strand of vein, pulsing like a hyperlink barely beneath the skin, trying to ignore the trembling of my fingers, as if reflected in a rippling pool of water. A semicircle and a cross, a semicircle and a cross. I turn the music up, hold my breath, and plunge the blade into my skin. Rancid pain erupts instantly. I howl out between chewed knuckles. Panting, I dig the razor blade deeper into my flesh, puncturing layers of skin as the music pierces my eardrums like a vaccine. I grit my teeth and turn it up louder, dragging the blade in a jagged semicircle. The blood is pouring now. It's on the blade, smeared up and down my stomach, on my fingertips. I can even taste it on my tongue, a pulpy mess bitten through. I'm almost hyperventilating as I carve out those final lines. Cross, cross. X marks the spot. Beneath my playlist and my heaving breaths, I hear the isolated thump if a single beat boom out from my laptop. I hear the sound of something fleshy and ripe rip, tearing into two pieces, the slow growl of severed meat. Then a beam of bone-white light slices through my eyelids and my head erupts with a humming bass line of pain. With one hand over my eyes and the other plastered over my wound, I crawl towards my laptop. The screen is burning with a blazing white seeping out like lava, but that's just a border, I realize. In the center of the screen there's a video playing, an aerial view of a festival field, people flitting across the midnight screen like small, shrunken moths. The resolution is so clear I can almost smell the scene, the scent of bodies and smoke, the sweet blossom of the dew-damp grass. I reach out, reverently, to push back the screen, soak it all in, and my hand phases through the screen like it's an open window. I leap backwards, swearing, scrabbling over the carpet, smearing my blood across the floor. My screen is pulsing, pouring out lights and aromas as heavy as liquid. Come and see me, that's what it said, but I'd assumed it meant hopping from island to island, just a swift paddle across the cyber sea, but now I'm sitting here, in a sweat-stained t-shirt and bloody tracksuit bottoms, in front of a portal. I can't remember exactly when I started deep sea diving. Was it after I got pushed down the science block stairs, or the day I came home with a broken nose? A swimming pool in my pocket, accessing the ocean from the comfort of my bedroom, enough music and media to submerge yourself entirely, uninhibited, to view reality. Mom's head in her hands in the head teacher's office, a yearbook missing a name, new school shoes glinting on my bed. After the last 3 pairs were stolen, from behind the lens of a gently rippling layers of translucent water. Maybe I've always wanted to drown. The night is black without you. The night is black without you. I stand up. I push my laptop screen as far back as it will go. I wipe the gore from my palms, run a hand through my hair. I scrawl out a text to my mum, gone night swimming. Might be a while. Close my eyes, lift one foot over the gaping hole in reality, and plunge. When I open my eyes again, I'm splayed out on a bed of grass. Breathing thinly, I'm battered, a beached boat, churned up and dazed. I drag myself to my feet, drinking in my surroundings. Although there's grass beneath my feet and a swooping midnight sky above my head, I could easily be standing on the seabed. The field stretches out endlessly on every side, no barriers or buildings in sight, and the sapphire sky soaks everything in a wash of navy, even the grass, now the color of whale skin. The field is flooded with people, men and girls, women and boys, those old enough to recall the internet's invasion into everyday life, alongside those who have never been out of reach of a Bluetooth device, dressed in miniskirts or pajamas or suits. I search for the symbol, find it on some, mainly on forearms, exposed thighs and stomachs, but I even see it carved into people's hands, their knees. One woman even has it chiseled into her forehead, and she stumbles forward blindly, blinking droplets of blood out of her eyes as casually as a slipped contact lens. There's people chatting as they walk, clumped in small shoals or in pairs, flitting between the stalls that float across the grass, simple wooden structures setting out the trail, hemming us in, carving up the crowd like sharks slicing up quivering masses of fish. Most of them are abandoned, but behind a few there are empty-eyed men and dazed-looking women, their stagnant bodies draped in faded school uniforms. I watch as a woman in a nightdress asks one of them for some water, then retreats at his dead-eyed stare and saliva-slick jaw. I crane my neck back to snatch a glance at him, but already I can feel the rip current dragging me along, the crowd heaving ahead, towards the sole source of light illuminating the field, the stage, a booming beacon of electrical light, blaring out a savage techno bass line like a mating call. It's a mile away at least. I haven't walked that far in years, but instantly, I'm drawn to it, just another crab in the bucket. Come and see me. With waves of sound scouring through me, I join the crowd's staggering march, chasing the high of the music. I've only stumbled a few steps forward when I see her, her dark mass of curls tangling itself in the tepid breeze. As she scrapes it back from her face, the fin-like peaks of her cheekbones surface, as if emerging from a pool of water, the contours of her skull visible beneath the scaled layers of skin and concealer. The eyes that track the crowd from the edge of the path are wide, rimmed with thick, spiked lashes, her pupils eroded into pinpricks by some secreted poison scorching her blood. Something wild swirls in her irises, and I'm reminded of bioluminescent sea creatures, shimmering sequins whirling just beneath the surface. She has marionette's arms, sharp jolts of bone, twists of pale knuckle, ankles and wrists straining from the flesh like shackles. She's not skeletal. There are ropey deposits of unraveled muscle at her arms and stomach, but it's as if her bones have simply outgrown her body, her skin left scrambling to shear the vulgar thrust of her pelvis, the careless lurch of her collarbones. She sports a low denim skirt and a purple blouse, revealing a white slice of sunken breast and the knot of her ribcage. And on her left hip, bleeding freely and carved out in a haphazard slash, I spot the exact same symbol that's etched onto my right. When I glance back at her face, I realize she's grinning at me, waving me over to her side of the trail. When she lifts her arms, I notice the two scars scoured down the softest part of her inner arm, from wrist to elbow, the healed tissue glinting like shattered shards of pearl in the half-light. The tattoo, she whispers as soon as I'm beside her. She speaks softly, quickly, her words warped by her white, rapid grin. You've seen it before? She spits the syllables out like chips of driftwood, with the candied jubilance of cherry pips. My reply lodges in my throat. I was never very good at speaking to girls, and beneath her churning gaze my throat seems to have shrunken to the size of a paper straw. Never, I manage to choke out, and she nods eagerly. Are you here from Clear Voice? I manage to ask, expecting another twitching nod. But instead her smile swirls into a circle of teeth and she echoes back. Clear Voice? There's no way she wouldn't remember the name. We searched for that website for days. You know, the email. The email? Again, my words are reflected, Luke Seawater crashing back from the shore. You didn't get it? I ask, and she shakes her head, smiling distantly, smoothing back her curls with an arm decorated by death. Everyone's here from the album, aren't they? Her smile uncurls something dark inside my stomach. Across all of those hours, across all of those web pages, I never heard anything at all, about an album. I suppose that was the first time I thought about how vast the internet truly is, the colossal size of all of those interconnected threads that never touch, how two scuba divers may submerge themselves at the same time and never see another soul on their side of the ocean. Before I can ask what she's talking about, she's already exposed to me a pale prism of skin as she cranes her neck up to stare at the sky, to observe the sprawling, inverted ocean with her strangled pupils. I wonder if they were lying. She murmurs. About what? No moon. She points up at the heavens, the desolate stretch of sapphire foaming with a sealskin scum of clouds. The pulsating surge of light pouring from the stage pollutes the sky so that the moon, let alone the flickering whisper of the stars, is indecipherable, a sunken body in the cosmic sea, just another shipwreck. It's impossible to tell, so we'll never know if that song was a lie after all. She lets her hand tumble like a sinking star and turns to smile at me, but it's brittle, like a shard of broken porcelain. I can picture her flashing this same smile across bars and raves and concert crowds, the flashing lights concealing the cracks in her grin and the desperate push of her bones from her skin, trawling the depths for her next high, allowing anyone to escape into herself on her rush to escape herself. And all I want to do is forget I ever met her, this distorted mirror of my own desire to drown. Are you a lunatic as well? She asks me, but the truth lodges itself in my throat and I can no longer speak. We rejoin the crowd, slipping back into the shoal. She whispers her name in my ear as we swim through the twilight, June, but by the time I tell her mine, I'm forced to shout over the pounding techno beat. We'll be reaching the stage in minutes, and already the music has peeled apart my ribcage and is pulsating inside of me like a parasitic heart, the floodlights soaking our bodies in a gnashing white foam. More and more stalls have sprung up on the grass, closer and closer, creating a bottleneck, and June clamps my hand in hers as she cleaves through the crowd, through the mass of bodies on every side. It's a sweat-drenched scramble of knees, fists, and elbows as we dodge the glasses of lurid green liquid thrust into the throng by the anemic hands of the stall workers. Reanimated from their stupor, now they're fixated on feeding us as many reeking cocktails as they can. A voice attached to a hand grasping a tumbler of bleach-scented liquid hooks my attention. I look up and come face to face with the past. Wait, Eric, is that... Michael? Eric's narrow face erupts into a jagged grin above me. It's a sharpened, stretched version of the smile I used to see, in flashes, on his face during our lessons together in high school, warped like a twisted curl of driftwood. Eric, what are you doing here? I yell over the music. He just laughs, a bark of rough sound that becomes just another bubble in the drowning wave of sound around us. It's amazing, isn't it? He crows. His voice is thinner than I remember, wavering, as if his vocal cords have been pulled taut. The music just envelops you and you can't think of anything else. But Eric... I try to interrupt him, but there's a blind sheen to his eyes, and his tongue keeps twitching, side to side, like an insect trapped in the cage of his jaw. You're not supposed to be here. Why would I miss out on this? He yelps back, working at the biggest show of all time. He rakes a hand through his hair, but to me it's as disembodied as a flesh-colored mosquito, a spasming insect fat with memories of those lunches we spent together, our desperate band of castaways in the ICT room, marooned by our peers. No, you shouldn't be here. Can't you remember what happened? I bellow, but it's as if I'm swimming against a churning current of madness. I watch his eyes glazing over as he takes a swig from some sort of poured poison clamped in a glass in his fist. Why don't you have a drink? And we can forget all that stuff in the past. Hey, what about your friend? Want a drink? He flings the drink at June, and she knocks it back before I can stop her. She glances at me with a guilt smile, her pupils pulsing slightly. Listen to me, I snap. It's becoming harder and harder to hear myself over the din. Is it getting louder, or is that blood pounding in my ears? You can't be here. Why? There's a flash of foreign fury in his snarl, darkening the starved whites of his eyes. I can't remember Eric ever getting angry, even after what happened in that last PE lesson together. Because I wasn't popular in high school, he babbles. Because I got laughed at. Because I got pushed around. Because nobody liked us. No, I scream. You shouldn't be here because you killed yourself 3 years ago. I watch as Eric's face collapses into itself. June retches beside me. I feel a splatter of something hot on my shoulder. There's blood on her hands. For a moment, Eric's there, standing in front of me, the agony of reality etched into his face. But then I blink, and he's gone. Just a blank patch of night. An individual eroded. As simple as closing a tab, or refreshing a page, sucked underwater again by the rip current. There's a lurch in my brain, and already I can feel my memory slipping. Which class was I in when I found out? Was I even in school? Did I go to the funeral? How did he do it? Did I try Dash? Mike, what happened? What's wrong? June asks, but I turn away, unable to face her gaze, unwillingly to dive beneath the surface of myself, even for a moment. I focus on the music, let it drill into my skull, anesthetize me, and then we're swimming again, aligned with the shoal, sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the music. The beat is pounding now. I can feel its throbbing pulse within my bones, inside my brain, like I'm balancing on the artery of some colossal beast. And the light, it's inescapable. It comes crashing over us like a tsunami and drenches us in a blinding, radioactive white that stains our hands and eye socket the color of frozen skin. There's people everywhere, the horizon clogged by pushing, pulsating bodies. The skyscraper stage is looming, and we're cascading towards it. I'm waiting for a crescendo that never comes, gasping for air, crushed between bodies. There's congealing blood between my teeth and... June shoves my head up, and I see it. I see the stage in all its glory. Finally, I can see who's performing there. It's a mermaid made of wires. like a crystal or chemical, she's a living refraction of light, a beaming tower of silver, the image of salvation, an angel. The light pours out from her eyes, her gaping mouth. She embodies its brilliance. The pearl scales of her tail and wired hair aglow with stolen moonlight. Music spills from her glowing hands. She's suspended in an ocean of sound, the thrum of 1,000 shimmering tails. I can feel myself reaching for her, straining to sink into her light. I want to drown in her melody. I want to submerge myself forever in her shimmering gears. Beside me, June's eyes are blind with wonder. There's so much, enough for an eternity. She whispers. Tears stream down her face, and when I look into her eyes, I see a very different type of joy reflected there. Not my mermaid, but instead gleaming heaps of the heaven she finds in little plastic bags. And then I stare into the eyes of those around me, at the different escapes reflected in each. And then I look not at what's on the stage, but at what's beneath it. The clashing jaws concealed by the music, the red wave already soaking my feet. And then I turn to June, her eyes flooded with a tsunami of artificial light, grab her scarred arms, and turn her towards the sky behind us. Look, June, they were lying. It's still there. Somehow the sky has cleared and the moon has returned, a dull sphere of the night emerging from the sapphire. June spins to face me, and I watch her eyes drain of the poisonous light, her astounded face as reality hits. The night is black without you. Then the moon falls from the sky and flies towards us. I'm enveloped in gold, and then I'm back in my room, gasping for air. I'm typing this all from my phone before I fall asleep. It's almost morning now, and the sunrise is already here, just behind my curtain. I'm exhausted, but I don't want to forget anything. I won't let myself escape my memories this time around. I keep thinking of June, her face before the moon caved in. Perhaps I'll be able to find her someday, online or in real life. I'm praying that we're from the same universe, to whatever God can remember her face. My laptop was fried on the way up. Right now it's slumped in the corner of my room, beside the razor blades and my clothes from last night, ready for the bin. I won't lie and say I'm upset. All I know is that I don't think I'll be going diving again anytime soon. I'm caught in a dark web challenge and need help. There's a crossroad before me, and none of the avenues are appealing. Either one will lead to life-changing events. Indecision will definitely be worse than any of the options. However, it is an opportunity to earn a substantial amount of money. I'm talking somewhere in the ballpark of 7 figures. Could be that it ends up ruining everything I've ever worked for, though. Now I've been given a small window of time here to reach out and seek advice as to what I should do, but first let me explain the situation. I was on the deep web a few days ago. No, not doing anything illegal. I frequently go there to read articles and news stories from highly censored countries. I'm a musician, you see, and these stories give me material. Like to think of myself as a voice for the underrepresented and the oppressed, shedding a light on those that can't make their situation known. Made a comment on an article I was reading, then went to look at some other stuff, but I came back to that article because there was something there that stuck with me. Noticed that my comment had gotten a reply. The reply was fairly poignant and it moved me, so I responded. Then the other person replied and we started a pretty in-depth conversation for a while, which is rare online, especially when you're completely anonymous. We finished our talk and were saying our goodbyes when he posted something that made my blood run cold. It was only a few words, but it was enough to scare me. He posted, "Good night, Stephen." He knew my name, but I never told him my name. There was about 6 layers of security on my computer, and they somehow still found out my name. Not only was there the protection that the Tor server offered, but I had firewalls, VPN, and encryption on board. Could have been a lucky guess, but the fact that my webcam was on when I hadn't turned it on myself told me that wasn't the case. A cold sweat drenched my body as I ripped the power cord to my computer tower out of the wall. Hold on, you might say to yourself. You weren't in any shady sites. You didn't go to some weird place with cryptic messages, or find an active camera with some guy in a crazy mask. How could this happen? Well, let me tell you. The whole deep web isn't some crazy place. Even Facebook has a community there. It's like a big city. Most of the time, if you stay on the main roads, you're fine. Don't go down any dark alleys looking for trouble and you won't find any. Sometimes, though, trouble finds you. My hope was that it was only some teen in their mom's basement that happened to be really good at hacking and they were trying to troll me or something. You know, get a rise out of me, spook me. Well, it worked. Barely slept at all that night, knowing that some stranger out there may have accessed information on me that I wouldn't want them to know. Finally, after repeating the little story to myself about it being a teenager, I was able to fall asleep. The next day was Saturday. My fiancé was out of town, and I didn't have anything major planned. So, when I woke up, I did my usual. Put together and submitted my grocery list for the week on my smart fridge, set up my next week of appointments on Alexa, and checked my phone for any messages I might have missed, then headed off to take a shower. I planned on booting up my laptop later to see if there had been any suspicious activity on my bank account or anywhere else I could think of. Got into the shower, started doing my thing, was washing my hair when all of a sudden a scalding, burning pain shot up my whole body. It was the most intense sensation believable. It felt like fire was coming straight out of my shower head. I jumped through the shower curtain and out of the tub without thinking, got caught up in that plastic part, and fell face first onto the bathroom floor, nearly breaking my nose. When I got untangled, the steam was thick enough that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was difficult to breathe such superheated air, but I managed to open the door and let the steam out before turning off the water. Red splotches covered my entire back. Pretty sure blisters were already forming. My phone dinged. It was the Ring app alerting me that someone was at the front door. The repairman was already here. My water heater had notified the company that there was a problem. There wasn't time to think that it was odd my water heater app hadn't told me something was wrong earlier. Searing pain muddled my thought process. I was relieved that someone was here to deal with the situation. Quickly, I threw on some pants and hurried to let the repairman in, showed him to the heater, then left to treat my burns. While slipping my shirt on, the Ring app dinged again. This time it was the grocery deliverer. I told her to come in and that I'd be down in a second. By the time I was ready, the delivery girl had brought everything in and was waiting by the door for me to sign off. Gave her a little hello, then complimented her on her nail polish. Not something I would usually do, but it was a crazy design, kind of a heart with wings on it and a nice green color. After a fast signature, off she went. While she was backing down the driveway, it dawned on me. The sign on the side of her van wasn't my usual delivery service. I ran to the kitchen and couldn't believe my eyes. There must have been 500 pineapples all over the place. The receipt she left had the number for the delivery service, which I called immediately. We argued for a good 10 minutes, but there was nothing they would do for me. They couldn't take back fresh produce once the delivery person was gone. I was stuck with all of that fruit and the bill. My head was still reeling when the repairman came back up. He told me that there had been a software issue, but he reinstalled it and everything seemed fine. He left after I paid him for the service call. By then my head was hurting from all of the problems. Went into my living room and slumped onto the couch trying to make sense of what had just happened, when I remembered it would be a good idea to go and check my laptop. "Alexa," I said somewhat jokingly, "remind me to shoot myself later." A male voice came through the speakers, which made me jump with a start. "That won't be necessary, mate. We're just playing a little game, a bit of sport, if you will." "Who the hell is this?" I asked. "You'll never know who this is, but after our conversation last night I could tell you're a smart man, just the type we want for our challenges." I couldn't tell if this was some weird practical joke or what. The man's accent was impossible to place, sounded like someone faking it to hide who he really was. All I knew is he didn't sound like anyone I had ever known. "I'm not playing any games. I'm calling the police." "No, you won't." "Your phone now has that feature disabled," the man said. Then the sound of all my windows and doors locking echoed in my ears. "You've got to love all these new smart devices. Convenient that at the push of a button you can know you are secure, or someone else can make sure of that for you. I'll unplug you, I said, and yanked out the power cord for Alexa. Then I went and turned off my router. My fingers flew in a desperate fury trying to regain access to my phone when my Ring app alerted me someone was at the door. Went to check, but no one was there. Then the same man's voice came through my phone. Look, mate, it doesn't matter what you do. We have everything accessed through a hotspot. You really should stay with the repairman when he works on your things. Don't blame him, though. He was just playing the part in his own little game. Same as the delivery girl. Speaking of which, right about now you should hear a ticking sound. I'll give you a hint. It's in your kitchen. You got about 5 minutes to find it, or you'll learn the real definition of the term pineapple grenade. In a flash, I bolted to the kitchen and started to chuck pineapples left and right in the hopes that one of them would feel different. 1 minute has passed, the man said over my phone. Didn't know what I was looking for, but hoped I would know it when I saw it. 2 minutes gone, he said again. Sweat stung my eyes as I realized that I was looking through ones that were already checked. From then on, I threw the ones that were inspected out into the living room. 3 minutes done, he said. Hands were raw and hurt from the prickly parts of the pineapples, and my arms grew tired from throwing them. Perspiration poured down my face as my heart beat irregularly fast. Fear grabbed hold of me. It's in the top 10 scariest moments of my life, which at that moment depended on me recognizing anything out of the ordinary. 4 minutes have passed, he said. This is impossible. They all look the same, I said, hands trembling and tears welling in my eyes. I never said it was a pineapple, only pineapple grenade, the man told me. That's when I finally stopped and began to listen. The ticking sound wasn't coming from any of the fruit. My ears focused in on a sound from a nearby kitchen cabinet. A speedy once-over revealed there were no wires or electrical devices on the outside. As far as I could tell, there was no trap, so I opened the cupboard. Inside was a recording device set on a timer. The ticking sound had only been a recording. In anger, I grabbed the recorder and threw it on the ground. A sense of relief washed over me as it smashed into pieces. Laughter erupted from my phone. Not only one guy, but a whole group of people could be heard. Guys, girls, and possibly a donkey, not really sure, but the laugh was just awful. See, mate, it's all in good fun. Just play along with us and you'll be rewarded. Don't, and well, let's say things won't end well for you. What kind of reward? I asked. Money. Lots and lots of money. If you play your cards right. If you don't, then everything ends. That proposition definitely had me intrigued. Maybe I'd be able to pay off my student and credit card debt, get a nicer place, and finally afford to marry my girl. So far, the game didn't seem too bad. Also, it didn't seem like I had a choice. Knowing they had been in my house, hijacked all my electronics, and were somehow watching me, had me a bit jarred to say the least. After the first event, it didn't really seem like anything was all too dangerous. If anything, it felt like an impromptu episode of a television show, something along the lines of Fear Factor, or one of those survival shows, you know, so I agreed to join in. The first real test begins now. According to your fridge, you have some lemon juice in there. You also have some salt in the cupboard. Now there's two choices. You can either squirt lemon juice in your eye, or snort a line of salt. $25 on the salt, I heard a different voice say. $50 on the lemon juice, came a female's voice. They were betting on me. It was a little weird to hear a bunch of different people egging me on in ways to hurt myself, but in the end, I chose the lemon juice. Cheers and boos erupted over my phone as pain coursed through my eye. Foot stomping, head holding, eye gouging pain. It took a bit of time to recover from, but eventually the irritation subsided and we went on. While we've been talking, there's been a delivery, the man said. I want you to go out and get the packages. We'll unlock the door for you now. I did what he said and went to retrieve 2 packages from my stoop. He told me to open them. Inside both boxes was a snake. Judging by their attitude, neither was happy where they were. Inside one box is a cottonmouth snake. Inside the other one is a northern water snake. One is deadly venomous, the other is not. You'll need to stick your hand in there because there's something important inside for the next task. You gotta be kidding me. I'm not sticking my hand in there. Think about the money, mate. Don't worry. By the time you're done, there will be anti-venom outside your door. We aren't savages. It's just for sport. The pain will be unbelievable, though. But what's a little pain? The man asked as other voices rose in a chant of, "Do it, do it." A look in both boxes revealed a wrench in each one. That was what I had to get, I supposed. It was hard to tell the snakes apart. Each one looked identical to the other. A couple of deep breaths, and I threw a hand in. Sharp needles pierced my skin, and a burn raged up my arm. My fingers found the steel at the bottom of the box, and I quickly yanked it out. The snake was stuck to my hand and came out with it. Legs turned to jelly at the sight of having been bit. A fast snap down of my hand sent the snake back into the box before I collapsed on the floor. Not sure if I passed out, but things went out of focus for a minute before I came back around. Steven, you're a madman, ha ha ha. Most people quit right there, but not you. I knew you had it in you. Anti-venom. I need the anti-venom, I said. Relax, Stevie boy. Neither of those snakes were venomous. You'll probably have a scar, but that's about it. You're sick. You're all sick. You sit there and bet on my suffering, I told them. Calm down, Stevie. It's all in good fun. All in good fun. The bets are how you make your money. I could have died, but you didn't. I'm done. I quit. This is too much mental anguish. You're a bunch of sadists. No, you don't quit now. You already agreed to play, and once in, there is no backing out, the voice said. You're in too deep to back out now. We have good money riding on you. The lock on the door slid back closed with a pop. What's stopping me from breaking the glass and just getting out a window? I asked. Benny, what are the odds that he makes it out through a window before the sniper gets him? A red dot magically appeared on the carpet about a foot in front of me and slowly traveled up my body. About 100 to 1 in the books. Huge payout if he's successful, but it's unlikely, Benny replied. Yeah, so you know, you could try. But it doesn't look good for you, mate, the man said. See, we have two different types of games here. You're on the extreme challenge since I like you so much. The other two were on the pranks challenge. You'll make more money than them, but the difficulty is much, much higher. I put you here because I knew you were a smart guy. I had heard one time something about cooking a frog, to put it in cold water and gradually raise the temperature. If you put it in boiling water, it would immediately jump out. Put it in cold water, and raise the temperature slowly to a boil, and it will sit there till it died. It seemed like I was the frog and the water was boiling now. I'd have jumped out, but the lid had been super glued on. So here's the deal, mate. You make it for 3 days and we leave you alone. You fail to comply, or you don't finish a task and you die. Oh, and at the end we give you a portion of the earnings for a job well done. Don't let your phone die either, or that's an automatic termination. We need that to keep in contact with you. How wonderful, I answered. From here on out, the challenges increase. By this time, you may smell something similar to rotten eggs. That would be a gas leak. Also, I've taken the liberty to turn on your oven. You need to find the leak and stop it before your house goes kaboom. As an added bonus, we will be playing the national anthem of the USSR over your speakers for the next 24 hours. Comrade Peshkov paid extra for that, so that's non-negotiable. He's a sadistic bastard, ha 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 ha. I ran downstairs as quickly as I could while Russian voices sang to the motherland. The fumes down there were so strong that my head quickly began to ache. I searched the furnace since that was where the gas came in from. There was no visible leak. By this time, my vision was beginning to blur and my thoughts became sluggish. It felt like forever, but in actuality it was probably less than 5 minutes when I found a spray bottle labeled soap water at the bottom of the stairs. It took a bit for my addled brain to clue into what I could use it for. Then, once I realized it must have been left by the repair guy, I took it and started to spray all the gas lines to look for bubbles. I finally found a loose connection and began to tighten it with my hands, but that wasn't doing much. Like lightning, the thought of the wrench upstairs sprung into my mind. I used that to tighten the connection and closed off the leak. Sprays around the rest of the pipes gave no more bubbles, so I went back upstairs to find my phone. You were slow. That's going to be a low payout, but at least you did it. You'll find 2 windows have been unlocked. You have permission to open them to air the place out. I threw open the windows, then stuck my head out and vomited all over the side of the house. For a second I thought about screaming for help. Then I saw the red dot on the side of my house and thought better of it. Once recovered, they gave me similar tasks like the one I had just done. Seems that repair guy had been busy in the short time he was in the place. Then again, if the pressure on him was anything like it was on me, I would have been fast too. It was 18 hours of running around and finding traps they had set up all over the place, all while the USSR national anthem blared on repeat. I'd get scored on how difficult the task was and how quickly I accomplished it. At 2 in the morning, they told me to go to my room to get some rest, but I couldn't sleep a wink with that dreadful song playing. I remembered to charge my phone at least. The next morning when I came downstairs, the whole place had been rearranged. It didn't even look like my house anymore. Welcome to day 2, and do we have a treat for you? You'll notice that things are a bit different. We had some interior decorators come in to spruce the place up. There are tripwires and booby traps you'll have to get around now. Your first task is simple. Make it to the other end of your house. On the banister, you'll find a set of wire cutters. Good luck. At least by this time, the anthem had stopped playing. Still with no sleep for the last 24 hours, the task was more than difficult. Once or twice while walking, I felt the pull of a wire string and stopped just before I tripped it. It took 4 hours for me to make it to the other side. You have no idea what that does to your nerves. My hands were visibly shaking. If I had anything in my stomach, I probably would have chucked that up as well. Once again, they gave me more tasks. Some had time limits on them and were made more difficult because I had to search every door or hallway I went down for tripwires. I did trip one in the hallway and a large spike dropped from the ceiling just inches from me. Another of the challenges was to find my laptop and get online. They had put it in the middle of my backyard. Sounds easy, but it wasn't. For some people, that might have given them a chance to signal someone for help. I, on the other hand, had a tall security fence around the yard. No one could see in, and no one could see out. Landmines had been placed in places which I had to avoid. One trap caught me by surprise when I stepped on a trigger plate. A 16-penny nail was driven through my foot by a nail gun in a bush. I wanted to curl up from the pain, but couldn't let myself fall for fear of setting off something worse. Finally did find my laptop and was able to take it inside. They gave me a deep web address to get on, which I did. At first there was nothing there. It was hard to tell what I was looking at. The screen was all black. Then a single light turned on. I was seeing a room somewhere. It was dark and empty, except for a chair that had someone tied to it with a burlap sack over their head. Instantly I recognized them. On their hand they had painted nails. Some sort of heart with wings on it, and bright green color. I let out a gasp. "So, you recognize her," the voice said. "You've seen those fingernails before." "Yesterday, she was the delivery girl," I said. "She failed in one of her tasks. Good news, though. You can redeem her." The man paused, and I could hear some whispering in the background. Right then, he continued, "The votes are in. You get the riddle." The riddle? That's it? I didn't tell them that I'm good with riddles. Being a songwriter, I've always had a way with words. Answer all of them correctly, and she walks out unharmed. Get it wrong or not in the time limit, and she loses her finger. Here is the riddle. Which of these words in the group, and why? Corset, coster, escort, sector, and courts. You have 30 seconds to answer. Fortunately, I was at my kitchen counter and had a pen and memo pad handy, wrote the words down in furry, and looked at each one to think about them. It came to me almost immediately. Courts doesn't belong. The other words are anagrams. Next riddle, same time limit. This time if you get it wrong, she'll lose her forearm. Here is the riddle. My tongue is long, my breath is strong, and yet I breed no strife. My voice you hear both far and near, yet I have no life. What am I? I thought about it. My mind drew blanks every time I thought I might have something. The sound of a clock ticking came over the phone. This frustrated me even more. The pressure built until I thought my head was going to explode. With that, a hand reached out of the darkness and grabbed her by the arm. Silver flashed across the screen, and with a sickening thump, her forearm was loped off and fell to the floor. Blood spurted out for about a foot and covered everything in its path with a bright red. Vomit rose to the back of my throat, but I managed to force it down again. Are we done? Can she go now? Hasn't she earned her freedom? We're not done yet. One more riddle. Big money riding on this one, Stevie boy, and her life. A tourniquet was applied to her stump to stop the bleeding. Then the large silver blade came out of the darkness one more time and was placed gently on her neck. She recoiled from the feeling of cold steel on her skin, but despite her efforts, she couldn't get away. Last riddle. It can't be seen, it can't be felt, it can be heard and can't be smelt. It lies behind stars and under hills, and empty holes it fills. It comes first and follows after, ends life and kills laughter. What is it? Shaken from the last failure, there wasn't much I could think of. No, please no. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to her. She doesn't deserve this. Let her go. Let her go, and I'll play along for an extra day. Can't do that, mate. That's not the rules. You each have your own game to play. She's playing hers right now, and so are you. I couldn't give up. I had to keep thinking of what the answer could be. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I don't know from what corner of my mind the answer came from, but with 1 second left, I blurted out the first word that came to me. Darkness. The answer is darkness. 1. The man said. The knife pulled back like it was going to swing, hesitated for a moment, and then disappeared into the black recesses of the room. We have a winner. The voice came through loud and clear. My knees gave way as I dropped to the ground crying. I could hear the woman in the room crying as well. Thank you, she said in between sobs. The camera feed was cut. I was left there hoping they kept their word and let her go. You are to retire to your room for the rest of the night. Tomorrow is the final day. We have a big surprise for you. In the night, sometimes I thought about running. Death would have been better than this, but there was still a good chance of making it out of this. The chances of outrunning a sniper bullet didn't appeal to me. 100 to 1 they said were the odds. Those words rang in my mind whenever I thought about escape. In the silence of my room, with nothing to occupy my thoughts except to recap the last few days, I was frequently one step away from a complete mental breakdown. Instead, sleep eventually took me. The next morning, I woke to my phone alarm going off. They must have set it for me when I was asleep. Groggily, I went to turn off the alarm, only to notice that the battery was at 1%. In all the chaos of what had happened yesterday, I must have forgotten to plug it in. In the rush to find my charge cord, my phone died. A bullet tore through my window while I hurriedly plugged in the charger. Another round came in through a wall as my cell booted up. Then a third and a fourth one left holes in the wall next to me. Funny thing was that I didn't hear a report from the rifle that was being used. Whether they had some kind of silencer on it or what, I don't know. Finally it booted up and my Ring app activated. Thought we had lost you there for a second. It would have been a pity since you made it this far. Only one challenge today and then we're done, but it will be the toughest one yet. My mind reeled in what this all could entail. One single challenge, but like I said, the hardest one you've faced so far. Do this and you make over $8 million, untraceable in an offshore bank account. The account number will be texted to you as soon as you are done. Don't do this and remember those pineapples? Well, they really were grenades, ha ha ha, all set to explode and send you to Kingdom Come. What do I have to do? $8 million was way more than I had expected. Still, my stomach sank with the prospect. I had overcome so much already, I really didn't know what else they could send my way. There was a sneaking suspicion I wouldn't like it, though. The sniper is gone, so you could run. But be warned, if you do, the bombs will go. Can you make it far enough away to be safe? Probably not. On the other hand, pardon the pun, he said. You'll get that joke in a minute. On the other hand, downstairs you'll find a very keen meat cleaver, sharp enough to cut something in one blow, and a cutting board. Also, well, I want you to see it so you can fully understand. Go downstairs now. When I got downstairs, the whole place had been put back the way it was. It looked like nothing had ever happened. The pineapples were spaced out evenly through the house to make sure there was nowhere to hide. Then, when I reached the kitchen, I saw the biggest and worst surprise of all. The scream died in my throat, then turned to tears of rage. In the corner, tied up and gagged, was my fiancé. We saw in your schedule that Monday morning is breakfast with the to-be missus. What a wonderful way to start the week. We had our men greet her at the door for you. She is unharmed, mostly, but I suspect very confused and shocked by these turn of events. Here's the deal. I was talking about that cleaver. What we want you to do is decide whether to take your hand or hers. It'll be your right hand or her left one. Absolutely not, I said. There was an audible click, and all the pineapples had flashing lights coming from under their skin. We understand this is a big decision. We'll give you some time to think about it. How does 40 minutes sound? At that time, if you haven't come to a decision, we blow the pineapples up, along with you and your woman. We'll even give you the opportunity to get advice as to what you should do. Don't try to call the cops, or boom. We see police coming to your house, also boom. You could try Answers or some kind of app or site. The choice is yours. Remember 40 minutes, or boom. And that brings us to what I need help with and why I'm talking to you right now. I'm standing here, meat cleaver in hand, and I got a question for you. I could try to run, but honestly, I don't think I'd make it. My right hand is important to my work and livelihood. Music is my life. Without it, I don't know what I would do. Go insane, I guess. Of course, they'd make me take my fiancé's left hand. That way I won't be able to put a wedding ring on her finger. I don't think she'll be happy with me for choosing my music over her hand either. Music is my life, but she is my world. How could I even think about hurting her? But how could I live without making music again? So, help me out here. Give me ideas or something to go on. My brain isn't working right now. What should I do? Update. Sorry it has taken me so long to do this. I've been recovering in the hospital and quite frankly would like to put this whole mess behind me. This will be the only update, as I would like to forget the whole ordeal happened. As far as people asking for a part 2, I'm not sure how that would be possible. I haven't heard from the group of people since I took my hand. Yes, I decided to take my own hand. Someone on here reminded me that I could still make music without it. Although the feel of plucking guitar strings will forever be missed. But this is just the start of a new chapter in my life, I suppose. Computerized music creation has come a long way, and there are instruments I can play one-handed, and I can still write lyrics and tunes. My wife, yes, we got married in the hospital as soon as we could. Something about realizing how short life can be has been by my side this whole time. She doesn't blame me for what happened. The money did come in as was promised. It will pay for a very nice honeymoon, plus a house, and a new recording studio. The rest will be donated to charities for those that I sing about. So what happened was I read some of your responses, then realized it wasn't even a question of what to do. It took more than one stroke to cut the hand off. I was about to faint the whole time. In fact, I did once the job was done. The people I had been talking to had paramedics there to help me. I don't think I would have made it otherwise with my wife having been tied up and me passed out. These people were the weirdest people I've ever met. They tortured me, yet still made sure I would live. It's the strangest mix of compassion and sadism I've ever seen. Granted, I've never really seen anything like this before. I hope this brings some closure to everyone that has followed the story. Sorry there isn't really more to tell, and I don't feel like going into any more detail. I have a plane to catch now. Again, thank you all for your input. I'm glad I didn't harm my wife. All I can say is that my house will not have any smart devices in it ever again. Take care. I ordered myself on the dark web. I know you're frowning. The title is weird, I know, but if you could just give me a moment, I'll explain. I'll have to be fast, though. I don't know how close they are. Essentially, I ordered myself on the dark web. I'm a drug user, I'll admit it. Weed is my usual go-to, but I buy that off my friend. If, however, I want to get something a little heavier, like acid or coke, I'd just order it off the dark web. it's surprisingly simple. A few clicks, some Bitcoin transfers, and then boom, I have acid in my P.O. box. But I'm also a curious guy. The dark web has always intrigued me. Up until a few days ago, I had only been on there to buy drugs off sites some of my friends gave to me, but late one night I was sober and at home, which was a rare thing for me. So, since I was bored, I decided to boot up my Tor browser and try and see what sort of fucked up shit I could find on the dark web. If you've ever been on the dark web, you'll know that you can't just search up Red Rooms or Hitman for Hire and get results. No, you have to find links to these websites first. So I hopped back onto Google again to try and find some links to a messed up website. I know it's weird that I was actively searching for the worst, but as soon as I got on the dark web that night, I had a sense of morbid curiosity overcame me. Anyway, I spent a little while trying to find some links. Anything that I found, though, was either too tame for me, or the links didn't work. At this point, I was about ready to give up, and I wish I had. But in one final attempt, I clicked on Reddit. Hoping onto r/deep web, I didn't think I would find anything. So, I just scrolled through hot for about half an hour before sorting by new. Then, I found it. One simple text post titled, Slayer's Assassination and Life-Ruining Services. In the text box, in the post, was what seemed to be just a random assortment of numbers and letters. Xi3, DK, YTCA, UBKQ, 2Y3, for those of you curious. It took my tired brain a second to figure out what it was, but I realized pretty quickly. It was a link, presumably to a Hitman website. So I decided to paste the link into my dark web browser, and what do you know? It worked. But before I decided to go any further, I figured I should go back to OP's profile to see if they have posted any other dark web links. However, when I went back to the post in question, OP's profile was deleted. Weird. Anyway, I reopened my dark web tab and hopped onto the site. Up along the top of the website was its name, Slayer's Assassination and Life-Ruining Services, and next to it what looked to be a skull inside of a crosshair. I chuckled when I saw that. The site must be fake. Upon scrolling down, however, I was not disappointed. There was a paragraph of white text on a black background, and a small box to the right of the text that just said, Place an order. The text was the main part, though, as it took up most of the page. It read, Slayer's Assassinations and Life-Ruining Services offers everything from acid attack, crippling, blinding, castration, torture, rape, beatings, and good old death. We have the lowest prices out of any other company running similar services, and we are worldwide. We have a dedicated and experienced group of staff based all over the world, so if you need someone to be assassinated, or maybe you just want them scarred for life, don't hesitate to contact us. Again, I laughed. This had to be satire, right? Hell, I was even tempted to order someone just to see what would happen. Ironically, I actually have a half-decent job, so I can afford to. Better not to risk it, though, I thought to myself. I was about to close my computer and call it a night when I heard a knock at the door. I live alone, so it was unusual to get visitors, especially so late at night. But when I opened my door, it was just my good buddy Mark, who also happened to be my weed plug. As I opened the door, he didn't hesitate to let himself in and shove a big baggie full of pot in my face. This dude is the best shit I've had in a minute. We gotta try some. I couldn't say no. Cut to a couple hours later. It's early morning and Mark and I are chilling on my couch, both blazed as fuck. He suddenly decides to get up, and I assume he's going to get some leftover pizza, but he walks over to my desk and computer. Slayer's Assassinations. Are you gonna kill someone or something? He mutters. What? I reply. Your computer, dude, it's got some hacker shit on it. It's the dark web, man. Don't fuck with it. At this point, I'm still on my couch, half asleep and not paying full attention. However, I sat up pretty fast when he said the words, Hey man, let's order a hitman on you. I hopped up and walked over to my PC. Part of my brain was screaming, no, what the fuck are you doing? But the majority of my brain, which was also the high part, was thinking about how funny it would be to order a hitman on myself. So I agree. I made him get out my chair though, because I didn't want him seeing what my credit card numbers were as I transferred some Bitcoin. At the end, after I wrote down all my personal details, like my address, age, and even a photo, I had to select what I wanted to happen to me. I just selected plain old assassination, as it was actually cheaper than some of the other things. I could have paid an extra couple of grand to be beaten before my death, but even my high brain didn't want to splash the cash too much on my own death. God, this is ridiculous. Anyway, I placed the order and then replied to a confirmation email, and boom, it was done. A couple of clicks and I had ordered myself on the dark web. Mark and I laughed about it for a while, but then he left about an hour later, and I fell asleep not too long after. I woke up around 9 a.m., which meant I got at least 6 hours of sleep, even if it felt like I got 3. I got up and out of bed, threw on some track pants and a cotton shirt, yes, I sleep naked, and brewed myself a coffee before sitting down to play some games and just enjoy my Sunday. You can imagine how shocked I was when I saw that I had ordered my death the previous night. Even though I thought the site was bullshit, I still felt a pit open up in my stomach. Even when I'm high, I usually can make sensible decisions. I chuckled, not like I could remember it anyway, but I guess Mark's new shit really was good. I would assume a normal human being would do something else, but I was still kind of out of it from the night before, so I just carried on with my day. I was a little more paranoid, sure, but as I said, I just assumed it was bullshit. I even laughed at the email I got from the website, saying that their hitman has been dispatched and was on its way. It was like ordering a package off Amazon. I was tempted to email back and ask for same-day delivery, but I didn't need to ask, because that's exactly what I got. I didn't see it arrive, but around the time I started to cook myself a shitty dinner, I noticed a blacked-out sedan parked on the other side of the road from my house. I didn't live in a rural area, but there is a lot of trees and bushes between each of the houses on my street, so I would be surprised if any other house saw the car except for mine. At this point, I was freaking out. What if the site was real? Even though I'm a big guy, I was freaking out. I don't own any weapons, aside from a slightly larger than average kitchen knife. Fuck it, I'm confronting it, I decided. I put on a hoodie and slid the knife into the front pocket before waltzing on out of my house and walking right up to the driver's side window of the vehicle. Even I was astonished at my own courage. Knocking on the window, nothing happened. It was rather anticlimactic. I was fully prepared to have to fight for my life, all because I did something really dumb while I was baked. But like I said, nothing happened. I even put my head right up to the window, as if there was a reflection, to try and get a better look to see what's inside. I could barely see what was inside of the car, but all I could make out were 2 empty seats. No one was even inside. I had got all hyped up for nothing. I decided to wait out by the car for a bit, but after half an hour or so, I was hungry, and I had to go back inside to take my dinner out of the oven. I swear it was only a minute between me going inside to take my dinner out of the oven and looking back out of the window, and the car being gone. I didn't even hear it go. Guess I'm eating my dinner with all my curtains closed and doors locked, I muttered to myself. I had just started to calm down when the power shut off. It was sunny outside, and coupled with the car, I now knew that this was the real deal. I had signed my own death warrant. I ran into my upstairs bedroom and locked the door, and then hid under the bed. I couldn't all the cops. What would I say? Oh yes, hello sir. Turns out, while super high, I paid $5,000 for some anonymous hitman to kill me, and now he's arrived. Send an officer ASAP, please, and thank you. So I just stayed hiding under my bed, and I still am now. I've been here for an hour now writing this. Think of this as my epitaph. I know I'm screwed. Just a minute ago, I heard my back door slowly creak open. This piece of writing may seem humorous to you, the reader, but in reality, as you read this, I'm under my bed praying to a God that lost all faith in me years ago to spare me, to let me go. But I know that won't happen. My bedroom door just opened, and I can see a big pair of black boots. I entered an auction house on the dark web and found myself for sale. During my first year of college, I was introduced to the Tor browser by my new roommate Ricky. Those of you who have been around the internet for long enough know Tor is a browser engine used to help you access the dark web, to which we frequently did. For a barely 20-year-old dude experiencing his first moments of living away from home, being handed a way to access nearly whatever I wanted just from the press of a few keys felt like being handed absolute freedom. While we mostly just used it for accessing pirated games and films, or maybe visiting a banned website, there were times I've found myself on the more twisted side of it all. I've honestly seen some pretty fucked shit that I really didn't want or need to see, other than to satisfy my morbid curiosity of if it would be possible to even reach those places. While I mostly regret these deeper dives into the dark web, one such dive might have very well saved my life. It was about 2 a.m. on a Friday, during the end of my 3rd year of college, and Ricky had been spending the night at a cousin's house, leaving me to myself. I had been scrolling through the web, going through various shady movie sites and running games I didn't technically own, when I got a strange pop-up ad. One-time auction, limited items, one of a kind. Get now or never again. Don't miss out on these items. It read in a flashing red and green Comic Sans font. Now I've gone to a few of these dark web auctions, even participated in a few out of impulse bidding on things that triggered something in my dumb college dude brain. This ranged from things like overly engraved gold handguns you would see Tony Montana strapping, to pounds of the finest weed grown in the purest soils of Jamaica, just to give me that little adrenaline rush of, dude, what if I actually get it? Granted, I only ever bid 10, maybe 20 bucks tops, knowing actually winning any of it would probably land me behind bars. I wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed and would have been busted within minutes of receiving the package. This one would be different, however. I decided I'd check out the auction and clicked the link before browsing through the bids. At first, it wasn't anything serious, mostly firearms and drugs, typical black web catalog. As I moved down the list, the items got more extreme, much more extreme. The list started with simple low-caliber handguns you could get at Walmart in some states, but quickly changed to sniper rifles and LMGs fit for military elites, till I was eventually being offered small nuclear explosives, claiming to have enough power to level small towns to ash and brimstone. Super strong pot and funny mushrooms quickly turned to advertisements for pounds of Colombian cocaine, to 10-pound boxes of fentanyl pills. Shadiest of all were what I assume are experimental drugs. Black and yellow sludge-like substances held in test tubes that didn't even have real names. Just things like Ext, 1 Now, and B8 Plies, RVV1. Judging by the descriptions, these things fry your brain, considering the people selling it explain the effects through mostly incoherent, barely understandable sentences, implying they've been indulging on their own supply. I remember one going along the lines of fun green bubbles. When super cool if eaten you, it's like green, blue, green bubbles. They fly up, eat up, fly down with the green bubbles. I might be paraphrasing on that, but trust me, it wouldn't have made any more sense than if I did get it spot on. Eventually I reached what I took to be the Hitman and Murderer catalog. Poison brews of resin and cyanide, claiming to have 0 scent or taste, soundproof sneakers, weapon silencers, fake Alasas, passports. People were even selling codes that were apparently instructions on how to get to areas in your location where bodies are most often hidden and never found. There were other codes that were labeled as how-to instructional tapes made by professionals on how to get away with various types of murder to even murders. If you didn't want to do the work yourself, you could buy the phone number to a top-class hitman near you who will make sure your job is done effectively. Things only got worse when I scrolled to the next page to see photos of people, some even children, with their names listed underneath. They were advertising human trafficking and given each of their Proctuct a small biography of sorts, as if they were stat cards. It listed everything from address to allergies, strengths, weaknesses, even down to the daily routine. Now I've seen these kinds of black room type things, and was well aware of how sick people can be on the dark web, but seeing it never got any less unsettling, especially reading some of the things these bidders wanted to do with the product once they got their hands on them. This unsettlement quickly turned to unimaginable, agonizing fear as I scrolled down to see my own portrait, one taken on my first day of college. I began to panic as I read off my card. Whoever these people were, they knew my name, age, race, height, weight, even down to my small birthmark behind my ear. Not only that, but they seemed to have known my whole life story from birth. My panic only grew wider as I saw there were already 4 bidders, the highest of which bidding almost 15 grand. The sickest part was these bidders left comments, things like, "He'd fit well with my collection. I can't wait to have his body. I wish to taste his skin," along with a slew of horrible, deranged shit they wanted to do with me that I really don't want to repeat. I fell back and began to hyperventilate. It felt like my heart was gonna give out and my brain was gonna explode thinking of all the horrible things that may happen to me at the hands of these sick, twisted people who look to take ownership of my life. Most of the rest of the night was a blur. I remember bidding 20,000 off the bat to top the list, then periodically bidding I think another 3 what felt like every 30 minutes, till I reached almost 40,000. After that, I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember was waking up curled into a ball under my desk in a puddle of cold sweat. It was still dark out, so the flashing lights coming from my monitor were all too noticeable. I could feel myself shaking in fear as I slowly crawled out from under the desk before slowly looking at my screen and seeing in large red Comic Sans, "Congratulations, you win. Please list where you'd like to send your prize. We will send an agent to deliver your package." I felt an overwhelming amount of relief wash over my body seeing I had just bought myself. Sure, I ended up putting myself in near debt before I've even finished school, but I'm alive and free. Knowing those vile fucks wouldn't be able to live out their fantasies was enough for me to forget about any possible money problems. Think I even started laughing like a madman for a second as I entered "Leave them be." I bought them their freedom so they don't suffer, hoping that'd be enough explanation, and thankfully it was as if I was answered rather quickly with another message. "Understood. Your product will be removed from all auctions and marked as sold. Thank you for your purchase," Evan reading, that caused me to nearly collapse as if all the stress and tension built up drained from my body, only to quickly return as I reread the message. They knew I just bid on myself. They were still fucking watching. The next couple months were a living hell of paranoia and anxiety. I tried to explain what I could to Ricky, and he did his best to help calm me down, but it was fruitless. Eventually, though, after enough time, I was able to move on from it. More so, I think my mind forced me to block it out. But it's all come back now, thanks to an email I had just received from Ricky, almost 8 years after that night. "Please help. I don't have the money to go up against the highest bidder." I responded as quickly as possible, asking for him to send me his PayPal or something. "That was 2 days ago. I haven't gotten a response. I think he lost the auction." The dark web gave me tinnitus and it got worse. They say curiosity kills the cat. Well, I'm here to tell you that the dark web has damaged me beyond belief, and I can confidently say that I wish my diagnosis was the least of my concerns. But what actually happened makes my symptoms feel like a cakewalk. It all started during my entire senior year, brushing dark web secrets aside for my thesis. Most threads led to dead ends. Crypto scams, fake hitmen, illegal marketplaces, the usual, the mundane reality of human greed. But this forum existed deeper than anything I'd found before, requiring 3 additional proxy jumps just to load the page. "True Enlightenment Through Sound," the title claimed. A string of comments filled the thread of each user describing the same audio file and its effects, which I couldn't be bothered with. My cursor hovered over the most recent post. A user called Voidwalker13 wrote, "The frequency opened something in my mind. The ringing never stops, but the sounds are real." Their account went dark minutes after posting. Every comment asked what happened next, but Voidwalker13 never replied. "You're going to burn out before graduation," my friend Laura said, leaning against my desk, her bracelets clinking against my coffee mug. The sound echoed in my quiet dorm room. I rubbed my eyes and pointed to my screen. "This thread is different. Look at the encryption level, the user patterns. It's perfect for my thesis," I said. "Michelle, you've been saying that for weeks. Laura's eyes narrowed as she read over my shoulder. A message popped up in my inbox. Someone had noticed me tracking the posts and offered the original audio file. The sender's username appeared in characters my computer couldn't display. "Just promise you won't do anything stupid," Laura said. She squeezed my shoulder and headed for the door. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I set up a secure virtual machine. The file arrived at 3 in the morning with a name and symbols I'd never seen. Every security scan came back clean. Laura's warning echoed in my head as I plugged in my noise-canceling headphones. The forums said the frequency only worked with complete audio isolation. My thesis needed a conclusion, and this would have to be it. I pressed play. The sound was so low I had to check my volume settings. A resonance built beneath the silence. Not quite music, not quite noise. The pitch climbed higher, scraping against my skull. My vision blurred as the frequency burrowed deeper. I ripped off my headphones, but the sound lingered. A high-pitched ring settled into my ears, pulsing with my heartbeat. Just the aftermath of loud audio, I told myself, and that it would fade. The forum had gone offline and would remain that way. My screen displayed only an error message and a string of those strange symbols, burning after images into my vision. The ringing grew louder. In the sudden silence of my room, something metallic creaked beneath the static. The ringing persisted through breakfast. I pushed my cereal around the bowl, each clink of the spoon piercing my skull. "You look like death. Have you slept?" Laura said as she grabbed her keys from the counter. I forced a smile and shook my head, saying, "Working on thesis revisions." "I'll bring you coffee after my shift." She paused at the door, her forehead creased. "Text me if you need anything." I sent 3 messages to Laura over the next 8 hours, but got no response. The wall of static in my ears made it hard to focus on anything else. My cursor blinked over a blank document as I tried to write about the forum, but the words blurred together. A metallic screech cut through the ringing, the sound of rusted hinges or something being cranked. I yanked out my earbuds, but they weren't plugged into anything. My phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "The frequency finds those who need to hear." I blocked the number and buried myself in research. References to enlightenment through sound flooded these dark web forums, but everything led to dead ends and deleted accounts. The ringing changed pitch as the sun set. A grinding noise wove through the static, like metal scraping against metal. My laptop speakers crackled with interference. My stomach growled, which reminded me to check in on Laura. "Can we grab dinner?" I typed before I set my phone down. The message showed as delivered but unread. Her last active status was 16 hours ago. My phone buzzed and I yanked it, ready to eat. But another unknown number popped up with a message that said, "Listen closer." The grinding sound intensified in my head. Under the mechanical noise, something else pushed through the static. A voice, distant and muffled. The words were unclear, but the tone. I slammed my laptop shut, and the voice cut off, but the ringing remained. It lived inside my head, a constant reminder of my mistake. The next day, 3 more messages to Laura went unanswered, so I contacted her roommate, who said she hadn't seen her since the day before. When I visited the campus coffee shop, her coworker said she never showed up for her afternoon shift. "Probably just sleeping off a hangover," her coworker said with a shrug. But Laura never missed work, and never went this long without responding. The metallic sounds grew sharper as night fell, each new noise distinct, the click of locks, the rattle of chains, the slow turn of rusted gears, and beneath it all, that voice, closer than before. Someone was screaming. The ringing was becoming unbearable, so I decided to visit my doctor. The audiologist's office smelled like disinfectant and old magazines. I sat in the padded chair while Dr. Mendez studied my intake forms. "Ringing started 5 days ago?" she asked, peering over her glasses at me. I nodded. Static hummed in my ears, punctuated by a rhythmic clicking sound that had started that morning. "Any exposure to loud noises before onset?" Dr. Mendez typed into her computer. "Just my headphones. A single audio file." She led me into the testing booth, a tiny room with foam-padded walls and a window where she'd monitor my responses. "Raise your hand when you hear a tone," she said through the intercom. The first few beeps came through clearly, then the ringing intensified. A mechanical whirring cut through the test tones, followed by the distinct sound of metal sliding against metal. I raised my hand, but Dr. Mendez's face showed confusion as she stated she hadn't played a tone. The equipment crackled with interference. Through the booth's window, I watched her frown at her monitor. She adjusted some settings, and the speakers screeched. A voice pushed through the static. Distant, muffled, pleading. "Miss Torres!" Dr. Mendez's voice came through garbled. "Are you okay?" I ripped off the headphones. The ringing remained, but the voice retreated beneath the static. "Your readings are unusual." She studied the printouts on her desk. "The interference pattern suggests external input, but there's no source. Perhaps it's tinnitus, but I'd like to do more testing to confirm." My phone buzzed. Another undelivered message from Laura. "I'd like to refer you to a specialist," Dr. Mendez said, writing on her prescription pad. "And perhaps consider anxiety medication. Stress can manifest in unusual ways." The clicking sound returned, becoming sharper, like something being wound tight. I rolled my eyes and stood, cursing myself to even think a doctor wouldn't write me off as just stressed. "It's not stress, but thanks for your time anyway," I said. I spent the rest of the afternoon in the campus library. My student ID granted after-hours access to the medical section, where columns of computers cast blue light across empty study tables. The ringing subsided among the stacks of books, muffled by decades of medical journals. My laptop displayed page after page of tinnitus research, case studies, treatment options. Nothing matched what I experienced. Normal tinnitus didn't include mechanical sounds or voices. A new tab showed the dark web forum's last cached version. Other users described similar progression. First the ringing, then mechanical sounds, then... The library's fluorescent lights flickered. My laptop screen filled with static, symbols dancing at the edges. That clicking sound returned, like a ratchet being wound. Books crashed to the floor 3 aisles over. My phone lit up with an incoming call. Laura's number. The signal bars disappeared before I could answer. The mechanical sounds grew louder. Metal scraped against metal. Chains rattled in the distance. I slammed my laptop shut and ran for the exit. The sounds followed, building to a crescendo, and beneath the static, someone screamed. Sleep proved impossible that night. My dorm room walls pulsed with shadows at 3 a.m. The ringing never stopped, but the darkness brought new sounds, clearer sounds. The mechanical whirring started low, like distant machinery, each new noise distinct. The click of locks, the grind of gears, the slow turn of a crank. My phone displayed another missed call from Laura's number. I pressed my palms against my ears, but the sounds writhed inside my head. The voice pushed through again, familiar yet distorted and warped. The words almost clear enough to understand. My laptop pinged with a new email. The dark web forum had resurfaced, displaying a single message. "The frequency finds those who need to listen." The ringing shifted pitch, and metal groaned against concrete. Something heavy dragged across a floor. My phone lit up with Laura's contact photo. Static burst from the speaker when I answered. Through the white noise, someone sobbed. The mechanical sounds built to a symphony of agony, each device clear in its purpose, each sound marking time until dawn. And beneath it all, Laura's voice screamed for help. The library basement provided the only relief from the ringing. Surrounded by concrete walls and dusty books, the static dulled to a whisper. I spread my research across an empty study table, printouts of forum posts, medical records, sound wave analyses. A pattern emerged in the user's final messages. Each described the same progression: ringing, mechanical sounds, voices, then silence. My phone lit up with another message from Laura's number. 5 texts, all undelivered. The signal bars disappeared whenever I tried to call her. The scrape of chair legs against tile made me jump. A man sat at my table, his white hair wild and unkempt. Scars traced his temples beneath his hairline. "It's not in your head," he rasped, eyes fixed on my papers, I pulled the documents closer and looked around, saying, "Who are you?" "Jack Morrison." He pushed a notebook across the table. "And those sounds in your head? They're not what you think they are." The notebook pages overflowed with technical diagrams. Wave patterns matched the ones from my own analysis, but his notes went deeper. Coordinates, signal strengths. The ringing spiked and a mechanical whine cut through the static. Jack tapped the diagrams. The screams pushed through again, a voice begging, the words muffled by distance or walls. "Well then, what is it?" I asked, my hands shaking as I flipped through his notes. Jack's expression tightened. "The frequency acts like a receiver, but..." The library lights flickered. Static burst from my phone's speaker, and the mechanical sounds grew louder. The distinct click of a ratchet, the grinding of gears. Jack grabbed his notebook and stood. "Find the source before..." He vanished between the flickering fluorescent lights, and a cold weight sank to my stomach. I ran from the library, his notebook clutched to my chest. The ringing followed, but something changed in the static. The voice sounded closer, familiar. Back in my room, panting and frantic, I spread Jack's notes across my desk, coordinates mapped across the city, signal strengths charted over time, and in the margins, a single repeated phrase that said, "The frequency finds those who need to hear." The screaming started again. I had to find Laura, so I rushed to her place. Police tape blocked Laura's apartment door. Her roommate Nina stood in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself. The police found her car. "At the train station. Empty," Nina said, voice cracking. The ringing in my ears built to a crescendo. Metal scraped against metal, and chains rattled through the static. I pulled Jack's notebook from my bag. Did Laura ever mention anyone following her? Strange messages? Nina shook her head. She went to work 3 weeks ago and never came home. Fear flushed my body with an unwelcome warmth and numbness. The mechanical sounds twisted into something new. The slow grind of a crank turning, a winch straining under weight. My phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number, a string of numbers and letters, coordinates. They matched a set in Jack's notes, circled in red ink. The screaming started again. The voice pushed through layers of static, desperate and familiar. Laura's voice. I stumbled down the apartment stairs, my vision blurring. It felt like a fever dream. The coordinates led to the industrial district, old warehouses, abandoned storage units. The police incident report glowed on my phone screen. Officers' notes mentioned Laura's coffee shop name tag found in the train station parking lot. No security footage. No witnesses. A new sound cut through the ringing. The click of locks engaging. The squeal of rusted hinges. My laptop pinged with an email. The dark web forum had resurfaced, but the page displayed only one post, a single audio file uploaded 3 weeks ago, the day Laura disappeared. I pressed play. Between a man's maniacal laughter and what sounded like a drill, Laura panted and wailed through strained vocal cords. Her pitch peaked, then shattered under wet gurgling when the drill ground into what I could only assume was her flesh and bone. When her screaming stopped, the device clattered to the ground, and what followed still haunts me to this day. Squelching, the sound of someone digging into her flesh, into her organs. I jammed the stop button and froze, unable to process what I'd just heard, unable to feel anything but searing rage. The ringing exploded into clarity. Every mechanical sound aligned with the recording, the same devices, the same timing, the same screams. Jack's notebook held the truth. The frequency didn't cause hallucinations, but created a connection, a live feed to somewhere. My best friend's voice echoed through the static, not a memory, not a recording, but Laura screamed again. The ringing led me through the city like a compass needle. Each turn amplified the mechanical sounds. The creak of pulleys, the grind of gears, the click of locks. Laura's voice grew stronger as I crossed into the industrial district. My laptop balanced on the passenger seat, tracking signal strength. Jack's notebook lay open beside it, his coordinates matching the dark web forum's data. Red circles marked 3 locations. The first 2 showed nothing but empty warehouses. Laura's screams changed pitch. The sound of metal scraping against concrete cut through the static. A new email appeared in my inbox. The forum had resurfaced again, displaying a single image. Laura's student ID card lay on rusty metal, her smile bright against dark stains. The ringing exploded into white noise. Through the static, machinery whirred to life. My hands gripped the steering wheel as Laura's voice broke. The mechanical sounds built to a crescendo, each device distinct in the chorus of pain. The third location pulsed on my screen, an abandoned storage complex at the edge of town. The signal strength peaked as I turned down the access road. I parked behind a rusted shipping container. The frequency throbbed in my skull, stronger than ever, each sound crystal clear, the turn of a crank, the strain of chains, the rhythmic click of something winding tighter. Unit 13's door hung open at the end of the row. The smell reached me first, sweet and metallic. Laura screamed through the static one last time, then the sound cut off, replaced by silence. The ringing in my ears faded to nothing as I stepped into the darkness. The storage unit door hung open against rusted hinges. My flashlight beam caught dust motes swirling in the dark, each particle dancing like static in the air. The ringing in my ears reached a fever pitch as I stepped inside. My foot hit something metal. A chain snaked across the concrete floor, disappearing into the shadows. The mechanical sounds in my head matched the devices scattered around the room. A winch bolted to the wall, a metal crank, rows of locks. The beam of light swept left. Laura's corpse lay like a rag doll, mouth gaping in an eternal silent scream, fingers gnarled as if she'd been clawing at her gashed throat, grasping for air. Her eyes had gone milky white, rolled back into her skull. A rusted electric meat slicer lay near her head. A wooden chair with nails protruding from it stood proudly in the corner of the room. A morbid glimpse into what she had to endure. The room's devices were unspeakable. It was all too much, too real. The ringing fractured into silence. Cold reality rushed in as memories crashed through my head. Laura at breakfast, but her coffee cup had phased through the table. Laura in my room, but the mirror showed only my reflection. Laura's texts, all undelivered to a disconnected number. The truth lay in front of me, wrapped in chains and decay. My best friend hadn't been missing for weeks, dead the entire time. The mechanical sounds made sense now. Every creak, every click, every scrape of metal. Echoes of her final hours burned into the frequency. The screaming in my head, her voice growing clearer as I got closer to this place. My phone lit up in the darkness. The forum displayed one final message. The frequency finds those who need to hear. The silence pressed in, heavy with truth. With a shaky hand and through blurry, stabbing tears, I dialed 911. Shortly after, sirens wailed in the distance as I sank to my knees beside what remained of my best friend. The ringing in my ears faded to nothing. The police station's fluorescent lights buzzed like static. Detective Morris read through my statement, her pen scratching against paper. Evidence photos spread across her desk. Laura's car, her student ID, the storage unit. You tracked her phone? She looked up from the papers. The ringing pulsed in my ears. No, a frequency led me there. She set down her pen. A frequency. From the dark web, I murmured. It connected to a live feed of... Ms. Torres, Detective Morris said, leaning forward. Your friend was killed weeks ago. The medical examiner confirmed it. The mechanical sounds crept back into the static. Clicks and whirs from devices the police had cataloged in their evidence logs. Then, how could I hear her screaming? My hand shook as I pulled out Jack's notebook. These coordinates led straight to her. The frequency has been under investigation. She slid a photo across the desk. Jack's body lay crumpled in the library basement, blood pooling around his head. Mr. Morrison was connected to 3 other murders. Detective Morris tapped the photo. all women who disappeared after visiting certain dark web forums. The ringing shifted. Laura's voice pushed through, distant but clear. He kept recordings. Detective Morris opened a file on her computer. Audio files of his victims. The same sounds you described. Static filled my ears as understanding clicked into place. The frequency, the forum, Jack's research, a trap. But the voice in my head screamed a different truth. Laura's voice, leading me to her body. The mechanical sounds matching every device found at the scene. The ringing built to a crescendo. Through the static, metal scraped against metal. A winch turned, chains rattled, and somewhere in the city, another girl started screaming. The dark web forum vanished after Laura's funeral. My thesis notes became evidence in a cold case, filed away in a dusty police archive. Detective Morris closed Jack's investigation without answers. No suspects, no justice, just silence. My laptop sat open on my desk, cursor blinking over a blank document. The frequency file remained hidden in my secure drive, untouched. The ringing never returned after that night in the storage unit. A new message appeared in my inbox, an unknown sender, a familiar string of symbols in the subject line. My hands trembled as I clicked it open. A single audio file waited inside, 3 minutes long, the same frequency. My finger hovered over the play button. The silence in my ears ached with possibility. Somewhere in the static, another voice waited to be heard. Another victim screaming to be found. But I pressed delete. The message vanished into digital nothing. My screen flickered once, symbols dancing at the edges like ghost images. A cold breath brushed my neck, carrying the faintest echo of machinery. Laura's voice whispered through the silence one last time. The frequency finds those who need to hear. I closed my laptop and let the quiet settle in. I couldn't do this again. In the distance, a phone rang, unanswered.